You're now listening to Sanity at the Movies Stargazing Edition. That's right, folks. We are finally getting to the post-Lucas Star Wars movies. I guess we already talked about Rogue One and Solo, but we're getting to the first movie, the movie that the Disney Corporation, when they took it over, the one that they did first, the one that they did before they did Rogue One and Solo.
Oh, yeah.
And before Last Jedi, and before Rise of the Skywalker. Rise of the Skywalker?
The Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker. Force Awakens, a J.J. Abrams joint, and a movie that we are going to talk about. Let's get right into it. My name is Nathan Albertson. If I didn't say that already, humble and obedient host. You're the pastor.
Yep.
Jacob Menzel.
That's me.
Let's talk about Star Wars, A Force Awakens. The Force Awakens.
The Force Awakens.
There could be any number of forces that awake, but this is the Force. The mystical energy field that surrounds us and binds us. Not crude matter, are we? Jake, what do you remember about Force Awakens, seeing it the first time and stuff?
What I remember is sitting down at my dining room table or around my living room and mapping out this whole stupid movie point by point by point by point down to crazy details with you. Going to the movie and watching exactly what we predicted play out before our eyes and thinking, well, they sure did exactly what we thought they would do. That's disappointing, but I guess they couldn't have done anything different.
Yeah, we said really. Kylo Ren's. I remember we said not only is Kylo Ren Han's son, not only is he going to kill him, but they will be on a bridge, a space bridge over a big pit, and Kylo Ren will open his lightsaber into him. Right. We got down to that level of detail. I don't know how or why at this point we were in the moment and we got down to that level of detail. And it made sound absurd to listeners to understand how that's even possible. But I think what you have to do, I think J.J. Abrams is so predictable. And the circumstances around this first Disney production had so much pressure that if you take J.J. Abrams and you take the circumstances and then you take just the details of who's in it that you see in the trailer. Mm. These are the kinds of things that have to happen.
These are the things that have to happen.
So how do you plug them into this group of characters that you know exist now?
Exactly. And so you knew it had to basically be, it needed to strike all the same beats of A New Hope. It had to be another take on A New Hope. It had to try to do the work of signaling to all of the people who hated the prequels that this is the Star Wars that you know and love, and these are the people that and we're going to handle this, and we're just not going to.
Well, and then I think
we're not going to screw it up.
I'm actually remembering a little bit of our conversation. We spent a long time on what are they going to do with Luke, and we realized that to have Luke in the movie would be to negate the utility of anyone else.
Who cares about these new characters if Luke's in the movie?
Right. So then, okay, Luke has to be the MacGuffin.
Exactly.
People don't know what a MacGuffin is. It's the thing or the object that everyone's looking for. In Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's the Lost Ark.
Yep.
In a James Bond movie, it'll be like the hard drive with all the agents.
Yeah, in the first one, it's R2-D2 and the plans for the Death Star.
Right, and it doesn't really matter. They could have just as easily said it's the plans for the this or that. All we know is that it's something important and everybody wants it, and it's what drives the plot.
Everybody's trying to find Luke.
In Marvel movies, it's usually a shining thing that opens up the sky and makes bad things.
There's the glowy thing at the center of the city.
And everybody's going to fight over possession of the glowy thing.
Yep. It's Star Wars. They're going to put the MacGuffin in a cute, interesting new droid.
We've got the droid, so obviously he's going to be carrying the MacGuffin. That'll be a poetry with R2-D2 carrying the MacGuffin in the first one.
Yep. We'll have the desert planet. We'll have our Obi-Wan character, but it'll be Han Solo this time.
Right. The girl will be the idealistic dreamer that just wants to get off the desert.
And there she was, even putting on her Rebel X-Wing pilot and having her little Rebel X-Wing doll.
Yep.
And we're going to have to go to a place and learn some things and then regroup and then lay it and then we'll have the thing and then...
Now, I think a little bit of our conversation may have been, well... They could do another super weapon, but they won't be that bald-faced, will they?
And then, yes, they will.
Yes, they will.
I think we basically said, yep, they're just going to do another super weapon. A bigger, better Death Star 3.
Yeah.
And...
Oh, man, I hate that scene in the control room or whatever where he's like... if the Death Star was this big, then Starkiller Base is this big.
we got the dude walking around. Well, if it's that big, then it has to have some sort of, let me move my hands in a sciencey way and say the words thermal oscillator.
Yeah, thermal oscillator.
It does. Well, that was convenient.
Oh, man. Watching the Rogue One really detracts from this movie because everybody in Rogue One died to get those first Death Star plans. And now we're going to watch a bunch of morons in a room be like, well, it probably has a thermal oscillator, so I guess we just blow that up. And,
and it'll all blow up. Exactly.
Like, why didn't they do that the first time? Jyn Erso could still be alive. Anyway, we mapped it all out, and it was... We've actually consciously... We still do it for fun sometimes, and we do it for profit sometimes on this very podcast, but... Yeah. We've actually tried not to do that as much because...
Yeah, well, that was a hard lesson. I don't know that I've been to an event movie that was more disappointing out of the gate.
Right.
Because you felt like you'd already watched it.
Yeah, it was just like, oh yeah, okay, yep, there it is.
And here's the thing. It was like reading the book and then watching the movie, right? It's like, you know the characters, you know the plot points, you have all of these imaginative possibilities for how it would look or how it could all look on screen. Then you have to go watch J.J. Abrams' version of it.
Which is, I dare say, not the coolest version, not as cool as the version in your imagination.
It can't live up to it. It's like you say about horror movies, the first two acts, there's a really scary monster off stage.
And those are the scary, imagination-firing, awesome acts of the movie.
But eventually they're going to have to bring that monster out onto the stage, and then it's not going to be as scary. It can't be. And it's the same kind of thing. It's, you know what the beats are, and you've got it all mapped out and all of the ways, and you've imagined the music and you've imagined the scenes and you've whatever, and then there it is. And it's just like, well, this was a serviceable version of of the book, but I kind of prefer the book.
Well,
or I would have preferred the movie just did something different.
Or took small risks, which the movie does a limited number of times, I'd say, with certain things that we'll talk about. But it's like, okay, you have the scene where Han Solo confronts his son, and you're going to hit all the beats that we know you're going to hit. Can you do something with I mean, I know I say this all the time, but can you do something with the dialogue there? Can you take a risk with, like, having small, unexpected human moments? That's one of the things that I really love about the Marvel movies, as much as they are just like a formula with the snarky humor now and everything. They do find... within the confines of snarky humor, often little human moments within these big, grand, obvious beats. And that's what Robert Downey Jr. was a master of doing.
Absolutely.
He could strike those poses and do the things that were expected of him, but he always found a way to just add little grace notes.
And that's what it's like. That's why you go to, who goes to a concert to see the album versions?
Right.
Straight up album versions of what you want to see these presumably awesome musicians, riff and have new arrangements, take some liberties, do something cool, exciting, different with the same song that you know and love or whatever. And especially that's true of, like, there's a handful of really canonical jazz standards, but in the hands of any one band, any one person, they're different, and they're different. They can be different every night. These stories, the Marvel stories, whatever, they're the same stories over and over again.
Right.
The question is, what grace notes can you bring? What riffs can you go on? How can you make it fresh? How can you make this same one story fresh, interesting, entertaining, exciting this time?
And it really is like jazz or blues in that we all know what we're here for, which is actually not a weakness. If you like jazz or blues, it's a strength, because then the entire interest is what's the interplay between what's expected and what's unexpected, and how does the person find those grace notes and still give us the thing, the blues song is still going to resolve with the, going from the fourth chord to the first chord. It can't not do that, not do that is to not do blues.
Exactly.
But it can find an interesting way to get there.
Yeah. And so the real problem out of the gate with The Force Awakens was that it really didn't. It was so safe throughout.
Yeah.
And which is why you pick Abrams in the first place. guys.
I think they wanted something safe. I think George Lucas took a tremendous amount of risks creatively.
George Lucas was gonna like give us a whole trilogy on microbiology or some dumb thing. Like Lucas was all about the risk.
Well, I have a quote here that I got from Lucas. He said his take on Force Awakens. He said, quote, "They wanted to do a retro movie. I don't like that. Every movie I worked very hard to make them different. I made them completely different planets, different spaceships to make it new." Unquote. That's what Lucas was all about. Was each one of those original movies is going to be something different creatures, different planets, different adventures, and then the new ones, it's like new stuff, new technology to show us new stuff.
Yep.
And then this movie is so safe.
Yep. Completely safe.
Completely safe. Do you remember liking this movie?
I remember thinking that it didn't really matter, and it was never really going to matter. It's like A New Hope is not a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
A New Hope set the table for Empire. And so it was really going to come down to what's this franchise's... If this new franchise or this new development of this old franchise is going to take off, Abrams can come out and give us a very bland table set that nobody can hate.
Right.
That's the goal. Then whoever comes in to do Empire is going to have the table set to, it's going to be in his power to knock it out of the park or to tank.
Yeah, and then Rian Johnson comes out and he's like, "I'm a magician. I made the table disappear."
Exactly.
"I'm so clever."
And we're all like, "I hate you." You know?
What if instead of eating food, we ate plastic?
I mean, everything in this movie, and I'm sure that you're going to take us through it, but like everything in this movie is, you can still go, when you watch it again, it's like what Abrams gave were tons of possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
He directed Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher to look at Rey in ways that could be reinterpreted as anything down the line.
And then Rian Johnson said, "Screw you, buddy."
Yeah.
Clang, clang, doors shut, windows shut, close off avenues.
Abrams is going to open them all back up.
Yep.
But yeah, so when we find out that Rey is Luke's daughter, or that Rey is Han and Leia's other daughter that they hid because, or Leia's love child with
Yoda,
Holdo, somehow, or Obi-Wan's whatever it is, then all of those looks that he directed are going to we'll go back and watch The Force Awakens and reinterpret it all.
Right.
It'll mean something to us. That hug from Leia at the end, the way that Han looked at her, the way that Han was like ready to take her on, felt some kind of beholdenness to her. What was the conversation between Han and Maz Kanata when she left? Who is she? How did Maz Kanata arrange for manipulate the Force vision once she had the conversation with all these questions that are just like that he put his mystery box out there and gave us a bunch of questions to puzzle over until Rian Johnson could come and...
Actually, the answer was it was boring. It was stupid. Didn't expect that, did you?
Screw you. You spent 2 years theorizing about all this stuff. It's all meaningless.
Well, I do want to defend Abrams a little bit. I think what this movie did that is actually, even though this movie is only 4 years old or something like that, this movie came out in 2015, I think. What this movie did do, which is very easy to forget now in hindsight with Last Jedi and The Mandalorian and Rogue One and everything, all doing it better. This movie did recapture the texture and the feeling of Star Wars in a way that we hadn't had since the original trilogy. And that in and of itself did feel special.
Yeah.
The soundscape, the visuals, the tactile lived in. Just the fact that Kylo Ren's the detail that really stood out to me this time is Kylo Ren shows up and his mask is banged up. And that's the kind of lived in universe that George Lucas created with the original trilogy. And then, as much as we are prequel apologists, that's something that that kind of got lost in the push to redefine the technology and get CGI and everything in there, and to just tell the story of a much more together world.
Well, and one of the smart things about Lucas is that he leaned into the tech that he had. So it's easier to create something futuristic and cool if you can beat it up and make it look old.
Right.
And worn. It allows you to have some excuses.
Right.
And then when CGI is in its early phases, too much detail is too hard. So make it all shiny and new.
Yeah, exactly.
And fresh, right?
Yeah, he found ways of using what he had cleverly. What I do think that this movie did, in a way that The Mandalorian does very nicely, in a way that all the Star Wars movies that have come after it did very nicely, but the prequels didn't do, is, for better or worse, it is a sequel to the feeling of Star Wars in a way that the prequels never felt like they were.
Yeah.
And when people go to see sequels, I think what they want is, as much as anything, they don't necessarily want the same story. They don't want the same. What they really want at the end of the day, when you or I see a sequel, or when anybody sees a sequel, what they really want is they want to feel the same thing that they felt.
Yep.
And I think J.J. Abrams did a good job of making you feel the things that you felt as a kid. So I think this movie just feels like Star Wars in a way that a lot of the prequels didn't. And I don't know. I was thinking about like Jurassic Park 3, arguably actually a better movie than Jurassic World. But Jurassic World does one thing right and nothing else. But it does do one thing right, which is it kind of gives you that Jurassic Park feeling.
We're going to Jurassic Park for the first time feeling.
Yeah, and that's like what we actually remember loving about Jurassic Park. And so the movie gives you that, and it makes a gazillion dollars. Some bad sequels like Home Alone 2 or something, people tend to like better than adventurous things like Temple of Doom that actually get away from the thing that...
Yeah.
It's also why a lot of sequels like Ghostbusters 2 or Men in Black 2 don't work, is because they actually do the exact same story, but what they don't manage to do is
get the same vibe,
because you can't. The whole vibe was just that it was fresh the first time.
Yep.
So this movie got that, and I think it's really easy to forget that because Mandalorian's now doing it better every week on Disney Plus,
week by week,
because Rogue One did it better.
Yoda memes every week.
You know, everybody's doing it now, but J.J. Abrams did figure out how to.
Yeah, he cracked it. It's sort of like Jon Favreau cracking Iron Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Hey, you go back and watch the first Iron Man. Okay, not 1-to-1. First Iron Man movie holds up.
Yes, it does.
But it also had some things in it that it went some places that Marvel movies don't go anymore. But it gave us a formula.
Right.
It gave us a vibe. And Abrams gave that to us. And
just to make the decision, like, we're going to shoot these practical, we're going to find real world locations as much as we can. If we're going to
have a cool new droid, it's going to have to actually work in real life. I want a droid that's a rolly ball. And that rolly ball has to be able to actually roll on sand and down and upstairs. Make it happen, puppet team.
Right. I actually, as we've been having this part of the conversation, I keep imagining the first shot of BB-8 just rolling through the sand, because I really think that just says it all. That's a thesis statement for J.J. Abrams' Star Wars is, hey, it's a actual metal thing, or at least it looks like a very plausible metal thing, rolling through sand. Isn't this what you missed for the last 20 years since Return of the Jedi? And it's like, yeah, actually we did. And this comes from a prequel apologist. So I think that's the genius of the movie. I actually saw this movie, funnily enough, in one of AMC's wonderful, I want to say sensory deprivation theaters, but that's only what it feels like. That's not what it's actually called. It's like the sensory friendly screening.
Did you get the wrong ticket?
Yeah, well, we knew it was that, but we didn't know what.
Did you and I do that?
No, I didn't know. I went with my mom, actually. I was going to see it in IMAX with some friends, but I got a horrible stomach bug. And so the next day I was like, hey, Mom, let's go see Star Wars. And they told the lady was like, oh, by the way, like after we'd bought our tickets, this is like a sensory friendly showing, but it's fine. It just means, the lights will be slightly up and the sound will be a little quieter, which in retrospect is not what you want for a Star Wars movie. But the way she sold it to us, it sounded like, it'll still be the movie. Right. But it turns out you just sit there in the theater, the lights don't go down at all, and then the movie just starts playing with no trailers. So, and the sound is really, really quiet. Like you can scratch your desk or do your fingernails or something like that, and you can't actually hear. I mean, my mom's in her 60s and she just couldn't understand what the characters were saying, and I hardly could either. And there's all these kids and people, whatever the polite word for, people with issues, people that you would want to take that.
Yeah, you want people who want to go see Star Wars, but who would be scared by big, loud noises or not understand them or maybe have some
I think
real
this was
potential
actually
freak out
developed.
problems if it were dark. And
I think the Autism Awareness Society is who partners with AMC on these things. So there was all these people like that. And I'm glad, fine, great that they have those. But what they shouldn't do is advertise them for you and I. I should be told very clearly that that's what I'm paying a ticket for, and I should be maybe given a discount. Anyway, I saw about 5 minutes of that, and then there were obviously a number of people that hadn't been told that's what it was because they started shouting at the screen, and then we all walked out, and they gave us tickets for the next showing. So I had the weird experience of seeing like the first 10 minutes of this movie in this really dumb, jank way. And then, if I was like one of the true Star Wars faithful, then I'd be making headlines, crying about how there was a news story about the theater dying halfway through the movie and people crying and saying, they took away our first experience and that's something you can never get back.
Class action lawsuit.
Exactly.
That happened to us with Ready Player One like 5 times. Was it Ready Player One?
Yeah, the sound went out.
And then we had to replay.
We still don't know.
It was a different movie, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. That was you and I's favorite movie of 2019, nay, the decade, Captain Marvel.
Oh, yeah, Captain Marvel.
We got to see Captain Marvel, the beginning, the first half an hour of Captain Marvel.
Like 3 or 4 times.
It was amazing. It stopped. The sound went out. It rewound. It started playing.
Then it was like not synced up, and then
it just cut to the beginning and started over.
Yeah.
So the best Marvel movie to have to sit through the first act twice.
Oh my goodness.
And the theater
got babysitters, at home with your kids, and it's like, are we really suffering through Captain Marvel 4 times?
Right. Like you could be doing so many things. You could be in a bar, you could be at McDonald's.
I know.
You could be making out in the car. There's like so many things you could be doing instead of seeing Captain Marvel.
Worst date ever.
That was a bad double date that we both went on. I guess let's talk through this bad boy. Force Awakens. You ready to go on a journey? So,
the sands of Tatooine.
Should we mention that this?
Jakku.
Of Jakku, yeah. All right. So the movie that took everything about Star Wars and recreated it for people. The titles come up. I like to do a title crawl.
Yeah.
Check. This is a good one. Luke Skywalker has vanished.
The Last Jedi. I remember people freaking out about who is the Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
The title crawl of Force Awakens says that Luke is the Last Jedi.
Is it actually? Yeah, that's
it does, yeah.
I really like the fact that it starts with Luke Skywalker has vanished. That's just a great hook for a story. As much as it was the obvious one that we sat in your kitchen and figured out, it is, if you're going to do Star Wars Episode 7, and we've already got 6 of these under our belt, and we just need a great, what's this movie going to be about? A great thesis statement for the movie, then Luke Skywalker has vanished. You could do worse than
yeah, absolutely.
Luke Skywalker has vanished. We also learn about the Republic and the Resistance, which I still don't understand. What is the distinction between and why, in storytelling terms? Like, why not just make it that the Republic is fighting the First Order, or that but there's like a Resistance and it's different than the Republic? Like, who cares, and why did they do it? And what is it even? I don't actually understand the politics. Like, can you tell me what the First Order is and where it came from and who the Resistance is and how they relate to the Republic? Because
So here's the thing. The Rebel basically it's a recreation of the Rebel Alliance. The Rebel Alliance is not really the Rebel Alliance because we had to retcon it being the Rebel Alliance when we had the remains of the old Galactic Republic in the Senate. So you had the Galactic Republic,
mm-hmm.
and Palpatine reorganized it into the Galactic Empire.
Got rid of the Senate at the beginning of New Hope.
But that Senate still existed, was comprised of people who were the independent governors of their own systems and their own either planets or systems of planets.
Doesn't Tarkin say, the governors will now have direct control of their, or something like that?
I don't know. Anyhow, you've got all of these people that have some kind of control and representation over their systems, and the Emperor has to maintain control over all of these systems. So he has to try to work through all of these channels and all of these people one way or another, or slowly replace them. And that's what had been going on. And Leia and
Buzz Aldrin,
Bail Organa.
Yeah.
So they were maintaining their sort of like
sovereign sway over
their cred. So was Mon Mothma and all that. But they were also low key the leaders of this alliance of people who were resisting and rebelling.
Which, as we found out in Rogue One and various other media, was a pretty scattershot group of different people.
Yeah, that were all just trying to come together. What we had are the organization of these sort of like splinter cells of people who have different ideologies and different degrees of intensity and different motivations. Again, as we see in Rogue One, save the rebellion!
Yeah, there's
what's his
that
name?
guy, Forrest Whitaker. What is his name?
I don't know. I can't think of his name. But he's on the extreme side. He would never join.
Splinter? No, he's part of a Splinter's film. What is his name? Shredder? Why can't we think of his name?
Saw Gerrera.
Saw Gerrera, yeah.
So Saw Gerrera had his own. He would never join up. But there were these other places in these either, Outer Rim places who were putting up their own rebellion or resistance in their little corner of the galaxy to the reach of the Empire. And so there were these people like Leia and Bail Organa who were trying to gather and organize all of these people, this sort of network of essentially anti-Empire terrorists, but who were really just the good guys fighting for the little guy. All the Robin Hoods out there would be the better way to think of it.
Right. Well, it's actually what Robin Hood does is he organizes all the different dissidents into the Merry Men.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's what is sort of happening, and that's what coalesces in Rogue One, and now you suddenly have this rebel alliance that actually can do something.
Right.
That has some power, that has some... And some of these old generals that didn't, and warriors that didn't go into, that defected when the Army of the Republic became the Galactic Empires, Army of the Galactic Empire, whatever it became.
Right.
And so I think you have the same kind of thing, which I think we'll probably see more of unfold in The Mandalorian, where you have...
Hope so.
Okay, so now you've got the remains of this republic trying to build a new governmental system, but you're talking about all these star systems across the galaxy trying to reorganize and rebuild trust and have some kind of, do we want to decentralize? Do we want to be independent? Do we want to be united here, there, wherever?
The one thing that's been clear on The Mandalorian is that on the outskirts of all this, a lot of bad guys
it's just
are
the Wild West.
Yeah.
Right? And so then...
And there's still the apparatus of the Empire in lots of places that's being used by various individuals for their own gain.
Yeah, so you have Imperial credits. Are they good or are they not good?
Right.
Who can use them and who can't and why?
Or we're just a random bad tribespeople that happen to have an old AT-ST
exactly.
walker.
How did we get it? Black market. One of us is an old stormtrooper. Like stormtroopers out there still daring to wear stormtrooper gear because whatever reason, because we want to see stormtroopers on pikes is essentially why. But so basically, you blow up the Galactic Empire, and then you've got this period of chaos and probably these little, civil wars and other things happening. Who knows politically what's happening, but what we do know is that they weren't able to put something together that was quickly enough, that was strong enough to resist a new movement organized by Snoke, presumably, to sweep in and pick up the remnants of the Empire and reorganize the remnants of the Empire into the First Order. And so suddenly now you have another big bad, and then you have, again, all of these scattered systems. Well, now that they've got a common enemy, they can unite as a resistance force to that common enemy.
But the First Order is not ruling over the entire galaxy in a way that the Empire was.
You get the impression that it starts in the Outer Rim, and it's like a foreign power coming in and sort of taking over in pockets, different places, and doing sort of the mob thing of with some of these Outer Rim places of, you sure do need protection, don't you? Because suddenly you're getting attacked. That kind of thing is something that we see the First Order doing in the show Resistance.
Right.
Rebels, Star Wars Rebels. You have Clone Wars, which is like, here's what happened in these great big grand Clone Wars that led to the final thing where Anakin turns to the dark side and it all gets organized into the Galactic Republic, and we get a sense of the politics across the board. Rebels is the story of one little splinter cell and how it all came to be, united into the Rebel Alliance, and then Resistance is basically the same.
Right.
Same kind of thing, where you've got some well-meaning people out on the edge of nowhere, and suddenly the First Order is like showing up and screwing with things.
Well, I don't know why I should care, and I don't know whether I actually do, but is the Resistance sanctioned by the Republic?
Well, I don't know that the Republic is a thing exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
The Resistance is basically just like
anyone with any strength to actually fight this scourge of evil that's
and Leia's sort of the lightning rod for it. She's the one that's like the one person that people can kind of get behind.
Yep, because elderly, drug-addled Carrie Fisher is nothing if not an inspiring figure.
Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher.
She'll always be royalty to me, as Max von
arguably
Sydow
two
says.
different people.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Although in this movie, I'm afraid that they come a little bit more close than I was happy about. But I guess we'll get to that. So we've successfully talked through the title crawl.
Yep, and I've flexed more nerd cred for you.
There you go. Speaking of cred, what's-his-face doesn't have to spend any to get the MacGuffin from Max von Sydow. He just talks to him. That's my amazing transition into this camp scene.
When Poe Dameron and the last Alderanian, or one of the last survivors of Alderaan, are sitting there.
Yep, and they have a nice conversation. The fun thing about Max von Sydow, people don't know, is that he was in his 30s or 40s when he played The Exorcist in a little film called The Exorcist, and he wore old age makeup, and it's really good. It's one of the best old age makeups that's ever been done. And so that got him a lot of cred as an old man, and he's essentially been playing old men. So, like everybody, he actually looks like the same old man in Exorcist, which is from 1977. I think it came out the first year that Star Wars came out. But he's still the one of the go-to charming old men to bring into a movie like this. Also quite good in Minority Report as the, spoiler alert,
bad guy
/ twinkling-eyed mentor to Tom Cruise until such time as he's not. He gives the MacGuffin to Poe Dameron, and Abrams knows, we all know that he didn't have to actually establish anything if he jumped in mid-camp talk. Well, it's one of the things that is nice about this movie, and I don't really want to make this into a beat up on the prequels, because we've established, I think we've done our work to say we like the prequels, we like what George Lucas was going for. But in terms of execution, George Lucas could be a little shaky sometimes. And one thing that George Lucas does is spend a lot of time on things that are tertiary to the actual stuff that we are interested in. Instead of starting in the middle of the Clone Wars, which you could conceivably do, he wants to show you
how they began.
They began with some really boring trade disputes and some documents that people needed to sign and some Senate squabbling, which is not the stuff that fairy tales and space opera is generally made of.
But it did leave room for a really great animated series.
Jake, I cannot allow you to talk about Clone Wars in this. Not when we're talking about something so much better. Max von Sydow gives a flash drive to Poe Dameron, which is the MacGuffin. It's about as MacGuffin-y as a MacGuffin gets, like
actual physical MacGuffin.
Yeah, and it's not anything. It's a flash. I mean, it really is just a flash drive.
An oddly shaped one.
And then the Empire, or whatever they are, the First Order attacks, and you've got stormtroopers
rattling in.
And
lights and dark and scary. Yeah.
I mean, it does start with a shot of adrenaline in a way that stately, though those early prequels are very stately. Like, here's the Jedi, and we're seeing them in a proscenium wide shot of them walking into an environment and looking around, and now we're seeing the environment, and now it's interesting because George Lucas kind of, what's the word? He pioneered him and Spielberg pioneered that style of, we're going to do a shot of the person's face, and then we're going to do their point of view. You know, I mean, Hitchcock, lots of people, they didn't pioneer it, but they popularized that whole, we're going to put you on the ground in the exciting spectacle. But then George Lucas didn't do it in the prequels.
No, but Abrams was smart to say out of the gate, we want you to feel there.
Yeah, we want you to feel there, and we want you to feel oppressed, and we want you to feel the power of the bad guys. And
Yep. A lot of attention to detail is going to go into the soundscaping, the sound design of absolutely everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this movie sounds the most like a Star Wars movie that just about any Star Wars movie has, and that's really nice. So they come down, and we meet Finn, although we don't. He's just F1.
He's blood. We're marking him, then he gets marked for us, and so we know that he's a guy.
Yeah, you like that stuff? It's pretty good stuff, I guess.
It's fine.
It's good.
Fine.
I like the image of blood smeared on a stormtrooper. Like, it's a nice way to have a conversation with the old movies, you know, to say, we're doing our own thing. This time there's going to be a stormtrooper who has a conscience, and visually we're going to represent that with just hey, there's blood now in Star Wars. There's never been blood before.
There's never been blood in Star Wars. Also, we're signifying that this movie's not so much for kids from the get-go, which J.J. Abrams thinks is really cool. But also,
what about parents with kids? How do they feel about that?
Like, it's not so cool, in my opinion.
Well, the problem is all the kids turned into grumpy 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds, and so in order to make them feel the same level of excitement, you kind of have to amp things up. And you could say Abrams does a good job of that.
It was the decision. It was the decision that Disney made. They're living with it.
Yeah.
So we can't criticize the movie that they didn't make.
Nope. And I dare say Rogue One's the perfect example of a movie where we're quite happy that they made an adult Star Wars movie. But the Skywalker saga, you could argue, doesn't need to be so bloody. And then we have the introduction of Kylo Ren.
Awesome.
You like that?
He shows up. He's got a scary, well-defined, unique mask and appearance and silhouette. His voice is scary, and he unleashes a new force power on us out of the gate.
Yeah, stopping that blaster bolt
in midair
is awesome.
It's super awesome. Abrams is like, I'm setting the tone. We're going to feel like we're in a Star Wars movie. We're going to feel like we're in a Star Wars movie right away. We're going to get blasters. There's going to be an X-Wing. There's going to be a cool new droid. There's going to be a scary dark villain in a mask. There's going to be a lightsaber, and there's going to be force powers that you've never seen on screen before. And this is all going to happen in like the first 5 minutes and then your adrenaline's going to be so jacked that you're just going to be along for the rest of the movie. Pretty smart filmmaking, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a technique since actually James Bond, I think, actually pioneered that, which is we're going to start with a ridiculous action scene that has nothing to do with anything, but
there will be a cool stunt and there will be a cool invention,
right?
A cool gimmick.
And if we can get
you've never seen
a sexy
before.
Girl in there and some explosions and stuff, all the better. So we're going to front load that so that you're so excited about the movie by the time the credits come, and then we get into like M's going to have him in his office and we got to talk through the plot and what's the MacGuffin. By the time we get to that stuff, you're hooked. You're in for the ride.
Yep.
And Spielberg and Lucas only became better at that. But then again, Lucas kind of forgot about it for at least Phantom Menace and arguably Attack of the Clones, and J.J. Abrams brings it back. I do not like Kylo Ren's mask. I do not like it, Sam. I am. I don't like it. It's
the existence of it or the mask itself?
I like the existence of it. I think it's fun. I even kind of like what Rian Johnson. I love everything about Kylo Ren, actually. I guess we'll talk more about that. But I think really smart way to make a villain for a new trilogy, and one of the more interesting things that Abrams did, and we'll see where they go with it in the next one. But I like the conception. And so the fact that he's just a punk wearing a mask wasn't at all disappointing to me. It was invigorating. Like, oh, this guy just thinks he's Darth Vader, so he wears a spooky mask.
Darth Vader wannabe.
Yeah, he's a wannabe. He's a junior, which I like.
Even gave us a scene saying, don't think that he's just a petulant brat. He's a poser.
Right. Exactly.
Grandfather, show me the way.
Yeah, he's tempted.
I will finish what you started.
That was a nice Abrams inversion, Luke was tempted by the dark side. Kylo Ren's tempted by the light side.
Yep.
But I do not like, just as a piece of iconography, as a piece of design, maybe you could argue it's stupid on purpose, but I do think it's stupid. Like Darth Vader, he's got a skull face, right? He's got like big eyes and a nose and a frown, basically, in that grill. Yeah. Boba Fett like reminds me of a Spartan warrior or something. Like I've loved a lot of the designs, but Kylo Ren, I don't know. I was trying to think about why it didn't work for me. It's just never seemed that cool. I think it has something to do with he has no facial features. He's just got almost like Shredder or like a ninja or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this big black thing covering his mouth and his nose, and then he's got his eyes, and those are fine. But then he's got like this brow, this grill that kind of functions as like, it almost makes him look like a gorilla. It just doesn't tell a cool story the way that.
So the story that I have always imagined it telling, I've not thought too hard about the mask. I've simply accepted the mask. But the story that I always thought it was telling is he did not create this mask. He did not design this mask. This mask was not born out of necessity.
Right.
This is some ancient mask that he found somewhere, that he adopted and has been playing in ever since.
So he's just a kid that bought something at Hot Topic and thought that it made him dark and cool.
Yeah. Ray found in the wreckage an X-Wing pilot helmet and played in her X-Wing pilot helmet. And when BB-8 shows up, when the MacGuffin shows up, she is eating her food, sitting in the wreckage of a ship, outside the wreckage of a ship, putting on her dorky little pilot mask and imagining herself as some great pilot somewhere. And Kylo Ren found himself some ancient Sith mask of some kind or another. You know, he's the son of privilege instead of the son of poverty, so he gets to run around and actually force choke people or whatever in real life, but he's playing in his own mask.
Right. That's pretty cool. I mean, that's a good story. I like that a lot. I love the fact that this movie comes down to two petulant underdogs that don't, neither one of whom understands the power that they're channeling. I think that's cool and clever. But I just wish his mask was, I wish he'd found a better mask.
It's fair.
I remember from the first moment, it's one of the things that most stands out to me as being not something, you know, like here's the not Darth Vader of it all.
Yeah.
Star Killer, like I'm not so invested in the Death Star that every time I see the Star Killer base, I think, oh, there's the not Death Star. But every time I see Kylo Ren's mask, I just think there's
not Vader.
There's not Vader. Again, you could argue, and you just made a very effective argument that that's the whole point, and it's pretty smart.
We'll see what we do with the reforged mask in the third one.
I do love the fact that the mask, like I said earlier, is dented up. That was fun.
Yeah. Okay,
so we go from there and we meet Rey. And she's scavenging, and
Rey scavenging is fine. Rey's scratching out days. We're telling a story of Rey's alone. Rey's got to fend for herself.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. It's exactly what I complained that they didn't do for what's her face in Rogue One. Like, we need to actually see what this character's life is before we start building on it.
Why should we care?
We need to see the foundation. They do a nice job of that with Rey. They hit all the beats. I think it's kind of an example of how you can hit the beats in the most simple way. And as long as the structure's there, you don't have to actually do anything clever.
And a little bit of nice music. Bum, ba-da, bum, bum, ba-da,
yeah, nice little John Williams theme. But, you know, she's scratching out those days. I like the childlike, you know, she has the dolls and then she has the mask, the helmet.
The helmet, yeah.
I found myself going.
That's something that that's deep in the symbolism of Star Wars. Is people who put on masks and helmets are people who are looking for their identity.
Huh.
That's a theme in Rebels. The main character is somebody who collects masks and helmets, and he's an orphan who's trying to figure out who he is. Turns out he's a Jedi in waiting.
Right.
And he doesn't need a mask or a helmet, but he has a whole collection of them.
When you said that, I immediately pictured Luke in the mask practicing in Force Awakens in the Millennium Falcon. And like, if he's going to ever become this great Jedi, he's got to put on the same mask that Rey wears, actually.
Anakin had one on Tatooine.
In the pod racer stuff? That's interesting. There you go. I wonder what Joseph Campbell would say about that. Probably something. He probably did.
That's probably why it's there.
That's probably why it's there. I found myself, especially when she puts on that helmet, kind of having this reaction of, aw.
Yeah, she's kind of cute. And it's kind of interesting to see, you know, I hadn't watched it in a long time, to go back to some of these characters and think, oh, they were kids.
Yeah.
Like, she feels like a kid in a way that she doesn't now. She feels like much more like a grown woman.
Yeah.
Now, she's just aged.
Yeah, exactly.
But you don't see how young, you only see how young she looked in retrospect, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly. But it made me feel sort of like protective or something, which made the scenes later with John Boyega where it's like
hand-holding crap.
Yeah, you're dumb for wanting to ever protect me.
Stop trying to hold my hand. And then she grabs his hand and yay.
But what's interesting is when you put a girl who's young in a movie like that, if this was Luke Skywalker and he's waiting, then me as a film goer, I'm not going to feel that feeling.
You're not feeling awe. You're not feeling poor girl.
But alone. If it's a girl, as a guy at least, an older guy, a guy that's older than the actress, you sort of feel that protective, like, oh, well,
yeah, I think
I'll protect you, Ray. I'll help you.
It is interesting. When did that movie come out?
15. It's only been 4 years.
It's only been 4 years. But I don't know, the difference between
a 19-year-old and a 25-year-old is a big difference.
Yeah, and the difference between just 30 or early 30s and late 20s and mid-30s is a little bit more father instinct kicking in too.
Yeah.
At least for a 19-year-old girl.
Well, I don't know. I think we should just talk about it. It's weird, but what sort of stops for a guy watching a movie as you get a little bit older and you get past, you're not the same age as the starlets anymore. You stop thinking of them as potential partners. Like, this is the woman that I would marry if I was the guy in the movie. And you just start thinking in a more fatherly kind of a way.
All men are fathers. I'm a pastor, which makes me a father to my congregation. But one of the weird things about being a pastor or a civil servant as a father is it's more or less natural to be fatherly with certain kinds of people, like the old lady in your church who's 92. You are a father to her, but also you have to relate to her as a son. There's another way to say this than the older you get, the more natural it is to be fatherly towards the 19-year-old girl. And for her to accept you as a fatherly figure. You still have to be that way as a pastor if you're 25, but you also have to have some more separation because
you need to be pure.
And you need to keep her pure. And your peers and peers make for the potential of sexual tension.
Right.
So you have to work to keep that distance, and it has to be brotherly and fatherly in its way, but not pretend like there aren't other dynamics at play here.
Right.
Or that there isn't the potential for other dynamics to be at play here. So it's just, I think all I was trying to say earlier is that, I'm almost 36 now, which isn't very old, but it's older than 31, You are, in fact, biologically old enough to be Ray's father in this movie. Yes.
I don't know. I mean, all I can do is observe the fact that fatherliness feelings were triggered for me from this movie in a way that I don't remember the first time I watched it, and it was weird. That wasn't weird, but it certainly did. Well, I guess we'll talk about the hand holding and all that when we get to it, but it certainly did make that stuff feel even dumber or more like a slap in the face.
Well, when Ray shifts from being a peer to a daughter in your mind, then
which she did for both of us, apparently. Well, then it feels very natural for
you want to sort of discipline your daughter for being a feminist
brat. Yeah.
Like, and then your heart goes out to John Boyega, who's just like trying to figure out, stolen from his family,
trying to figure out what it is
to be a man, what it is to be a good person.
And boy, every time he tries, he sure
does get smacked.
Yeah, it's just like, no,
come on, man. Like, please.
Your instinct to run towards...
The movie ought to have more pity on him than that.
Well, it's like she's getting accosted by some ne'er-do-wells, and he runs to help her.
He's got the high, and he has to stop and watch her kick butt for a second, right?
And the movie's like, ha ha, you dumb idiot. You thought you were going to help the vulnerable little woman, but actually she can take care of herself. And then the movie does that again.
It does it like three or four times right there in like a 5-minute window.
And then it has the gall. You bring in an actual father figure in Han Solo. You do a little bit with the instinct that Jake and Nathan feel of, aw.
Yeah.
But then when he comes to rescue her at the end, we're here to rescue you. Oh, yeah? You know, I mean, it's like
she's already rescued herself.
Well, I would have been fine, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still got that vibe. Like, never is there a point where your instinct, which they successfully aroused, your instinct to protect this young woman, never is there a point in the movie where that instinct is done anything but denigrated and mocked.
Until Chewbacca shows up. I mean, they do give then...
He says it was my idea to rescue you, and she gives him a hug or something like that.
And then Finn gets to wield the lightsaber for half a minute while she's knocked out on the ground.
Right.
Before she Mary Sues.
But this is before she's
been Mary Suing the whole
This is after and before she's saved him now 6 or 7 times to his
right.
One like week I can just barely do something.
Yep.
Saving of her. So, well, maybe we'll come back to that when we get to it in our chronology here. But we got Ren interrogating Poe.
Yeah.
There's that scene.
Another new force power. Not that new, really.
Mm-hmm. It's a pretty natural extension of...
Vader, a sister. You know, Vader's able to penetrate Luke's mind. And so, yeah, it's a pretty natural... But the idea of actually being able to visualize what's going on in there instead of sense or feel or get an answer to a question, that's kind of new.
Yeah, that's a fun scene. And I like the interrogation scene later between Poe and Rey. It's jumping ahead, but it did strike me in that scene that it's a dorky actor holding out his hand and wavering it in front of an actress's face.
Yeah.
And it goes on for like 3 minutes. And mostly thanks to John Williams, it really works. And there's dramatic stakes and tension. But if you think about what they're doing, it's like ridiculous schoolyard crap. Like there's no special effects or anything to kind of dress it up. It's just a guy waving his hand and pretending to have wizard powers for a second, and a girl pretending to resist his wizard. It's like the kind of acting exercise that you give to actors in like day 1 of acting class so that they can just be embarrassed in front of each other and get over the fact that they're going to be doing embarrassing things. Then we have Rey meets up with BB-8.
Hey, I just want to point out one little thing, just a little grace note that was nice in its own way. Your interrogation scene reminded me of the first time Poe and Kylo Ren meet face to face. We have the force freeze of the blaster bolt, and then he's brought near, and they have that same moment of awkwardly staring at each other in silence. And then Poe's like, "So who talks first? Do I talk first? Do you talk first?"
Yep.
It's that little,
which is just
a little bit of. It doesn't take much to tell a little bit about the character of who you're dealing with. Oh, this is the Han Solo character.
Yeah. And Oscar Isaac does a nice job of, I mean, he's one of the characters that thoroughly gets deflated and emasculated in Last Jedi, but in this one, he does a nice job of being the new Han Solo.
He's such an awesome, I didn't feel this at the time, but I did watching it the second time feel like there's all kinds of Han Solo potential in Oscar Isaacs in the performance and what he brought to just a little bit of material he had to work with.
The fact that he's not destined perhaps to be one of the iconic, awesome, beloved Star Wars characters is
massive failure.
A shame, you know.
Kathleen Kennedy allowing Rian Johnson to do that.
Right. So then we have Rey. She meets up with BB-8. She does not sell BB-8 to the Simon Pegg alien junk trader guy. She's sympathetic because
she has compassion for droids.
She has compassion.
Just like somebody else we know.
Yeah, exactly. And she says my favorite line, which I wrote down, which is, I know all about waiting. I'm waiting for my family. They'll be back one day. Which is an example of like, The Little Mermaid would have a whole song, like in a Disney movie,
exactly,
the whole song is dedicated to that. But this is just like, there's the thing. Here's the thing you need to know about the character.
Too much exposition, but not too much.
It's kind of sweet, and she sells it.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a good actress. Man, the casting of this movie, that's the other thing you can really give Abrams credit for. Oscar Isaacs, her,
Daisy Ridley,
Boyega, they're so darn likable together.
Yeah.
It really goes a long way.
It really is interesting that we're having this conversation this way, because I think that if we had come out of the theater and done this, we would not be talking this way about these characters. I think we would be saying, who are these characters and why should we care?
Right.
But they're really, you see it going back through, you see all kinds of potential.
Mm-hmm.
The table really was set.
He did do things. He set the table and he made you like the table. And it's something that George Lucas did in the original story. Maybe George Lucas didn't.
He may not have made you particularly invested.
No, he didn't. But you didn't, at the very least, you didn't hate or resent any piece on the table, except for Kylo Ren. Hated how petulant he was. Yeah, which we can argue about that. But this cast is really likable. And I mean, it's just things like Daisy Ridley has a really charming smile.
Right.
Like she has this Cheshire cat grin that she flashes. It reminds me of Keira Knightley, who I don't like, and she ruined Pride and Prejudice and Pirates of the Caribbean. Stupid. But Keira Knightley has a pretty smile. And so does Daisy Ridley. And that goes a long way. And J.J. Abrams is enough of a workmanlike, good director that he knows you have a character with a smile like that. Let's have her smile.
Yeah, you don't
all the time.
Dwayne Johnson in a film and not have him smile, right?
Yeah.
If you're Joel Osteen, the one thing that you don't do is let your teeth go. Okay, that's a bad example. He's creepy,
you don't. Back in our day, you wouldn't cast Schwarzenegger and not have him show off his muscles. You know, people have things that make them who they are, and if you can figure out what those things are and use those things, then you can do a lot. And so Boyega's good at playing kind of vulnerability and cheerful, like, I got him, I did the thing, I don't know if I'm going to do the thing, I don't know. You know,
I'm faking it right now. I'm faking it really badly. I'm a bad liar. He's good at bad liar.
Right, yeah. Bad liar who really wants to be a good liar.
Yeah.
And so have him do that. Cast, I imagine they probably got him and Daisy Ridley in the room, saw how they played off of each other and made sure that they liked each other, because it's just kind of palpable that they're friends. You know, the stupid script has them best friends within an hour of meeting each other, which is a Star Wars tradition that goes all the way back to New Hope.
Yeah.
But we need to be able to buy that in the chemistry of the actors. And J.J. Abrams, I know he's good at this because Lost did a good job on it. And that Star Trek movie, the genius of that first Star Trek movie is that he put together just a really likable cast.
Really nice cast for his Star Wars audition.
Yeah. He didn't know how to do much of anything with them, judging by those Star Trek sequels. Finn and Poe escape, and they're best friends all of a sudden.
Yeah.
There again, you know, I was thinking, I couldn't think of a really great example, but there's so many movies where, well, Solo is actually not a bad example. The characters are doing an escapade, and we're immediately expected to just accept that they're charming, and this banter is fun, and the movie's like, you're having fun, aren't you? And I'm like, no, I'm really not actually having that much fun.
Well, see, part of how it works, even with the chemistry of the actors, is Poe Dameron is feels like the kind of guy who is like a best friend, big brother, father figure to just anybody.
Everybody, yeah, exactly.
He's everybody's big brother, best friend. He's going to draw you in. He's like the recruiting tool of the Resistance. Like, you know, not only is he the ace pilot, he's the guy that you go and, you know, make the guy who mentors the 10 other junior, goes and recruits other pilots, and it's like, you want to be part of the Resistance. Let's go, buddy.
Yeah, he's Tom Cruise in Top Gun. He's the one that's going to give Boyega his jacket and say, like, you earned it, kid, and Boyega is going to feel really special about having this crummy jacket.
And John Boyega's character is the character who's just so desperate for friendship in a likable sort of way that, like, of course it's going to work.
They do a really nice job establishing that in the fastest brushstrokes possible, in ridiculous brushstrokes that, you know, nobody becomes friends that fast with somebody that they're devastated over their loss, you know, within a half an hour of meeting them. But it really works because of the chemistry of the actors. And I don't know, I just like Captain Marvel actually is a really good example of a movie where Brie Larson's not likable, and she's got all this banter and all this stuff that's not that much less or more sophisticated than what these people have to do, but we're expected to just be charmed by it.
Not so charming.
It's not so charming. Yeah. So I don't know if that's just casting or if Abrams just knows the secret of how to make those chemicals ignite on screen. But it is something that I think you could give him credit for. That
either way, give him credit for it.
Yeah, he gets it.
He got the result.
It's like the difference between a rom-com where you can tell that there's chemistry between the leads and one where they might both be great actors. They might both really know how to play romantic scenes, but they just didn't like each other that much in real life, and it just somehow bleeds through, you know?
Well, you have the same vibe. Marvel's been smart about this exact
Very
kind
smart.
of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like Mark Ruffalo and Chris Hemsworth develop an off-screen chemistry while they're doing press tours.
Right.
And Taika Waititi's like, let's lean into
Let's
that.
do that on film.
Yep.
Downey Jr. Assumes a fatherly role with Tom Holland. Let's get that.
Let's get that on film. Falcon and the Winter Soldier have this.
They're good at doing bro reaction shots together.
And they have a real press tour relationship where part of the press tour relationship is joining up and picking on Tom Holland.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just make that their shtick.
There's a TV, and let's make that their TV
and then
show.
let's make a whole TV show about that shtick.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, you know, there's a lot. If you can't have character actors are harder and harder to come by, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty charismatic people who can develop chemistry with other people, or, you know, where you can find natural chemistry. Like, that's something that smart directors find, put together, lean into. And you see on the press tour stuff, you know, these characters, they have these kinds of these actors, they have the same John Boyega and Oscar Isaacs have a bromance.
Right.
That's a real life bromance.
And what is it about that makes it so much more compelling to watch that on the screen than two really good actors playing all the same lines? I have no idea. It's
pixie dust.
It's just pixie dust.
Yeah.
But Abrams is really smart in putting those things together and making them.
Well, and he may even just kind of create the environment like a good coach does.
Right.
Like a good coach in training camp. What he does, the reason you have training camp is it's like boot camp. Like boot camp in the military, everybody goes and gets on the same page and they go through some hard experiences together and they're brothers by the time it's done. Training camp's the same kind of thing. You put everybody under pressure and then you create these bonding experiences for them through the trials of the work in the day, and then also the team meals, and then also the, you know, team fun events or whatever later. You create these, or just the structured free time where people are allowed to have space to create and develop these relationships. I think half of, especially if you have a movie like Star Wars, a lot of what a good director might have to do is like, you have tons of, you know, pre-screening, you know, read-throughs and in the room with the whiteboard and talking and getting everybody excited and getting everybody on board and making everybody count the cost of the pressure of in coaching these young actors on, now listen,
your life's about to change.
Your
completely.
life is going to change forever. And some people are going to hate you for the rest of your life. And it doesn't matter how good you are. And some people are going to love you for the rest of your life. And it doesn't matter how bad you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just are going to have to, here are 5 lessons about having thick skin. And here are 5, you know, now we're going to bring in Mark Hamill and he's going to talk to you about what his life was like.
Yeah.
And how Star Wars made his life and ruined his life.
Mm-hmm.
And Carrie Fisher is going to talk about, you know, or Harrison Ford's going to come in and talk about, you know, whatever.
Yeah. I think a good director is like a coach or like a father figure, obviously. You hear a lot of stories about like Stanley Kubrick, you know, the more genius kind of cold directors. You'll hear actors talk about how devastating it was to be done with the movie because this person who just felt like their dad suddenly either in the worst situation doesn't care for them about them anymore now that they've got what they wanted. Or just like, we move on. Now I've got to get a new father figure with whoever the next person is. And so you make these intense connections, and then
it's also why so many Hollywood affairs start on set.
Yeah, it's why Mama Don't Let Your Daughter Grow Up to
be an actress.
Yeah. Because the emotional turmoil, the emotional turnover that you have to go through in that business is just like, I don't know. It's pretty grotesque. I say as somebody who likes movies. So
is unprepared to accept the logical consequences of the words just spoken.
Yep, exactly. I guess it's okay, but I don't know. It takes a special sort of person. Let's say that. A sinner.
Loophole.
So Finn meets Rey. They become fast friends. Their chemistry is great. Exact same thing between the two of them. We do have those scenes. I don't know if there's anything else we want to say about the annoying feminism. I think we already kind of got there ahead of ourselves.
She's a great pilot. She's a mechanic. She can do it all.
Yeah, now we all have to pretend like we already knew what the term Mary Sue was, even though none of us had actually heard the term before this movie.
Well, I'm just sort of sitting out here in the middle of nowhere and all this broken wreckage, and oh look, I can fly the Millennium Falcon, and I understand it better than Han Solo.
Yeah, I don't like that.
You know, what will, if we need it, if anybody feels like we need it, we'll get a little TV show where we have the pod racing that happens on Jakku, where we learn all the ways that Rey learned how to be a
great at everything,
great pilot, great mechanic, and everything else.
Well, as of this recording, we just did our top 7 things we liked about Narnia on the Bookening, and my last one was the discipline, and what I meant by that, and we talked about this a ton in our Narnia series on the Bookening, was Lewis just has all these moments where the characters mess up, where the children act like children, where they get bratty or petulant, or they make the wrong decision, or they don't trust Aslan. Somebody tells them like, hey, that was dumb. You should clean your sword, Peter. You guys should have followed Aslan. And not only is that good for kids to learn, like I need discipline and it's good when people discipline me, it's also relatable. Like it's what happens in real life. Even if you have bad parents, you probably still have teachers or a coach or somebody who disciplines you. And if you don't, you have a God that disciplines you. So the fact that Rey's not allowed to make mistakes in this movie,
and that even her mistakes turn out for good. Yeah. She's Harry Potter.
Yeah. And in both cases, I think it flatters the audience. It says you, as the person putting yourself in the shoes of this protagonist, are someone who is basically right about everything.
Yep.
And
just follow your heart.
Just follow your heart. Which is not actually a good lesson. It's also not a relatable lesson. What I want to say, I think most of our listeners know it's unchristian, it's unbiblical, but it's also bad storytelling is the point I want to make, because we actually relate to flawed human beings who are like us, and we want to see stories about flawed. So every time Rey does something perfectly, I guess the idea is that a little girl can say, oh, well, it wouldn't be great if I could impress Han Solo. But actually, the real Han Solos in real life aren't that easy to impress.
Yep.
And what feels nice is if you earn Han Solo's trust and his love by the end of the movie, not if you get it.
And it feels earned.
And it feels earned. That's what's really moving in a story. The fact that she just gets it because she was always great, and she was just waiting for the Han Solos of the world to notice how great she is.
Well, now, Nathan, that's how it reads without having seen The Rise of Skywalker. But it may read completely different after The Rise of Skywalker. It may be that Han is looking at his niece or his daughter or the long-lost somebody that we all knew was out there somewhere. And
that's possible. It doesn't stop what sucks about this movie as an artifact taken in and of itself.
All right, fair point.
It may turn out that Leia and Luke are brothers and sisters, and all their weird kissing and sexual tension is really creepy. Let's actually not let that affect the artifact that is A New Hope. Okay. Well, so the next scene is Kylo Ren. Finn has escaped, and Kylo Ren has a temper tantrum. And we start to realize that he's a petulant brat who's in over his head. And we're going to realize that more as the movie goes on. But let's talk about Kylo Ren. Do you like Kylo Ren?
Yes. I think, was it off-putting to have fake Vader be fake Vader? Yeah, it kind of was off-putting for fake Vader to be actual fake Vader.
But in the way that a real movie that's not just paying lip service to fan service, if that's a phrase that I can use, they took a risk with something, and that's refreshing.
Yeah, they decided that we can't live up to Vader, so let's have our fake Vader be a fake Vader who knows he can't live up to Vader and is trying desperately to and really can't, and is haunted by the fact that he can't live up to Vader.
Right.
And is a petulant little brat trying to figure out who he is just as much as our Mary Sue is.
Mm-hmm. And he's actually allowed to fail in a relatable human way, which I think makes him a much more interesting character. I wish Rey was the good side equivalent of what he is actually, and that they're both...
That's Finn for us.
That's Finn. But I think Rey would be a more compelling protagonist if she was allowed to do some of that, at least. Like, let's have two people... The Force has receded into a legend. Luke's a legend. Now let's just have these two bumbling people that figure out that they can channel this power, and what are they going to do with it? But I really thought it was Kylo Ren's a villain we haven't seen before in Star Wars. He's an interesting new kind of villain. And he's a relatably dangerous villain of the type that I don't think we see in movies a lot. But real life villains are often villainous precisely because of their incompetence. You combine deep malice with deep incompetence. You have someone that's more
great power.
And great power.
Right.
You have somebody that's arguably more dangerous than, a malevolent supervillain, James Bond villain, Hannibal Lecter type character who's just omnicompetent. Like, that villain is scary, and there's a reason Hollywood keeps going back to that all-powerful satanic villain mold. But in real life, as often,
and that's the reason why the Rise of Skywalker is going back there.
Yeah, exactly, and we're happy about that, and we've talked about that. But the fact is, in real life, it's not the teacher who's knows everything and is just out to give you a bad grade because he's malicious. It's the teacher who's incompetent, who hasn't studied the material, who's just pretending to be an authority figure. That's the one that you remember hating from high school. If you think about...
Well, the teacher that I dislike the most, if there's ever a teacher I've despised, it is my senior year high school AP lit teacher, who simply put she just did not belong teaching literature, period.
Right.
This teacher, she literally did not know what a syllable was. And she literally could not count the number of syllables in the word banana.
Right.
And this is my go-to. This whole class, the whole year was like this.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not an exaggeration. She literally was trying to teach us about iambic pentameter, which we all understood because we'd had some pretty great English teachers before that, who we hated because they were good and required us to do work.
Mm-hmm.
But she was trying to teach iambic pentameter, and she didn't understand feet, and she didn't even understand syllables. And she literally stood in front of our class and argued with us about the number of syllables in the word banana.
Banana, 3 syllables.
Yes, and she kept clapping and saying, banana. It's about the rhythm. Banana. No. Banana. 3.
You can do a different rhythm.
Early on, I got like a C or a D on one of my first papers.
Mm-hmm.
And she had marked it up with all these grammatical errors that weren't actually grammatical errors. And so I was just like, this was early in the year, and I was just like, what am I going to do? So I diagram these sentences to show her. She didn't know what a sentence diagram was. And so then I go to the department chair, which we had, and I'm just like, here's the paper, I wrote up sentence diagrams to prove, but you don't need to see those. She gave me a D or something because she doesn't understand the difference between a complex compound sentence and a run-on sentence, like, and so he went and he got my grade changed to an A. And then I literally went to writing, like, that. I just treated the class as a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I went to writing the most simple, the ball is blue,
mm-hmm.
the cat is brown. I will not express a single, complicated thought.
Right.
And what I'm writing for this woman who doesn't know what a syllable is while she's teaching my AP literature class.
Right.
Like, what an insult to all of us. It's so terrible.
Well, I think we've all been oppressed by teachers like that, by bosses like that, but we've all had that experience.
I don't know why I told that. Did I just tell that story because it was interesting?
That's Kylo Ren, Jake.
Ah, yes.
Well, I think there is something in that, because I think, like, I've read before that professional poker players will not play poker against amateur poker
because they
players.
can't read them.
Because they can't read them. They have no idea what they're going to do, because it's an amateur who might just accidentally bilk you for millions of dollars because they don't know how to play poker. And there's all kinds of parallels like that in real life. And that's Kylo Ren. He's dangerous because there's no predicting him.
Major League Baseball. Scientifically, your brain cannot react to a baseball. You're not a batter is not reacting to the pitch. He's not seeing the pitch and reading the pitch. What his brain is doing is interpreting 1,000 cues that are all subtexts of how this pitcher is pitching. And the pitcher's job is deception. plain and simple deception. It is to mask every cue that could possibly signal what the pitch is and where it's going to be as effectively as possible. And yes, there are erratic pitchers that have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
That can be successful and have a chance of striking out anybody if they can just throw the ball hard enough and be like the idiot poker player. Potentially. But it's that same
what they get at.
principle.
It's like Darth Vader, you always know where you are at with Darth Vader, and probably you're screwed. Same thing with Palpatine, but those guys are predictable in their evil. Kylo Ren is a complete wild card, and you never know what he's going to do. And I think that's just a really fun idea for a villain.
Yeah.
I don't know. You also think about like the great villains of history. You do have some megalomaniacal masterminds, like, you know, we've been reading War and Peace, Napoleon.
Yeah.
You got those guys, but then you've got like Judas sold out his savior, the savior of mankind, for 30 pieces of silver, which wasn't a lot of money. Like, the people that do the most damage are not always...
They don't realize that they're there to be the villain until suddenly they make the last villainous decision.
Right. Or Saul in one of the great tragic villain stories in the Bible. He's complicated, and when he's most dangerous to David is when he's just like this guy that's going to randomly throw a spear, which is very Kylo Ren. So that's Kylo Ren. Then we meet Han Solo again.
Yep.
How do you feel about Han Solo in this movie?
I
feel like Harrison Ford's there and bringing it. He famously hated this role. I mean, he's always hated Han Solo. He never liked the dialogue. He never liked doing it. He was always grateful to George Lucas for helping make his career, but he's always personally been more of an Indiana Jones man than a Han Solo man.
I think that he was happy to play the role of a grumpy old man who hated being there.
Right.
And finally got to die.
And really liked to use Chewie's blaster that apparently we all really care about now.
Give him his thing.
Yeah.
JJ's allowed to do that.
Yeah, that was his nerd thing.
If you're gonna
obviously, J.J. Abrams always thought that Chewie's dumb crossbow thing was cool. So he wanted somebody else to use it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's his prerogative.
Yeah.
That's, if you were going to do, there would be something like that we would throw into a Star Wars movie, that we will throw into a Star Wars movie when the Ville gets discovered and they tap us. Dave Filoni, listens to all our podcasts. It's like, man, these guys, they really get it. And he's like, Jake and Nathan, come give us my right-hand guys and give us the next trilogy.
Yep. We will definitely do something like that.
Yeah.
And it'll be great. I don't know. I kind of felt like sad that Han Solo was still a cynical reprobate. Like, I don't know. It's that weird catch-22 where everything that you love about the character is something that the character kind of needs to grow out of, and that you kind of expect he would grow out of at the end of Return of the Jedi. But it's just kind of depressing to see him still be on the outs with Leia. And
what a terrible life.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, cool, great. It sure is nice to know that Return of the Jedi wasn't actually a happily ever after for our two lovebirds. And Han's just the same cynical swindler doing deals with guys that are well beneath him. And I didn't know how to feel. I mean, I didn't like it, but I don't know what else you do if you're going to bring Han Solo back.
It's part of the conundrum of trying to come up with something that's going to satisfy.
You know what? It made me really appreciate Robert Downey Jr. and what's not to appreciate about him, but he did such a nice job in the Marvel movies. Everything that we like about Tony Stark is his insouciance, his wise acre nature, his kind of immaturity is in the fact that he's flippant about being a superhero. That is what makes Tony Stark Tony Stark.
Yeah.
And yet, in those movies, he charts a real course of giving gravity and dignity and making that character into a father figure, and it really works, and you really believe it, even though Tony Stark never loses his Tony Starkhood. And it's just so nice how they do that. It's one of, whatever you want to say about Captain Marvel and Captain America and everything that they did wrong in the Marvel series, Tony Stark is a triumph of that series.
Well, I think that what people are afraid, the question people are afraid to ask in those types of situations is, I think what people are just generally afraid of in general when it comes to righteousness or goodness is that, or godliness or holiness, is that becoming more godly means losing what's fun or interesting or unique about
Which isn't true.
about you, which isn't true. There's a redeemed Han Solo that's still Han Solo.
And is more likably, iconoclastically Han Solo than any Han Solo
ever before. But also fatherly and wise and dignified.
This has been one of the great lessons of my life and one of the joys of my life, because I think I always thought that becoming mature meant becoming boring. And it's one of the things that kept me from being mature in my early, as a teenager and into my 20s, was just like, well, I don't want to be dumb and boring. So obviously.
Only immature people think that.
Right. Exactly.
In Hollywood's nothing if not immature. It's why Hollywood thinks that, oh man, mature sexuality sounds boring. Why would you be married to the same one person for your whole life?
Yep.
And you know what? When you mature past that immaturity, you understand what's better.
Yeah. And Jake just said a lot, folks. There's a subtext.
All kinds of subtext.
Like all the stuff that Hollywood says you like about not being mature is actually stuff you only get really well by...
The best of it's reserved for the mature.
Yeah, it's weird. And Robert Downey Jr. in his own silly Marvel movie Hollywood way kind of got at that. Like by the end of those movies, Tony Stark's a better man, a more interesting man, and he's still Tony Stark. And
who would you rather hang out with? The Tony Stark at the beginning of the MCU or the Tony Stark at the end of the MCU?
Well, which one would give you the time of day?
Exactly. Yeah.
Which one would you be able to hang out with?
Yeah. Which one would anybody? I mean,
might be fun to watch a movie about the first time Tony Stark, but you wouldn't like him if you had to work for him.
Nope.
Marvel
You'd
movies
be like Pepper. Why are you still here? Because you pay me really well. That's why I'm still here.
Yep. Or like all the people that worked for Jake Gyllenhaal that were just like, no, we didn't like him.
Yeah. Which was a smart conceit because who would?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's too bad that they didn't have something more up their sleeves besides Han Solo was just stuck in Arrested Development, and that's what makes him the same lovable rogue.
Well, he tried to get beyond it, but then his son went to the dark side. He had too much Vader in him.
Yeah, but I think any sequel needs to start with the proposition we are not going to undo too much of what, particularly with characters. I can understand like, oh no, the bad guy came back, or oh no, there's more ghosts for the Ghostbusters. Like obviously, in order for the sequel to exist, you got to give them that.
Yep.
But if somebody fell in love with somebody, or somebody realized that they needed to be a better father, or if somebody had a breakthrough, there's nothing I hate more than when we artificially make that breakthrough just go away.
Yep.
So that we can, now Michael Douglas isn't in love with the Romancing the Stone lady anymore, so they have to fall in love again in Romancing the Stone 2, whatever that was.
Sigourney Weaver's going to marry a cello player instead of Bill Murray because reasons.
Right. So now Bill Murray can try and charm her all over again. Yay.
Instead of, I don't know, just be a good husband and dad. Bill Murray could do that. That would be a really interesting character for Bill Murray to play.
Yeah, and the challenge for the screenwriter then is a really interesting creative challenge, which is Bill Murray still needs to be funny. He still needs to stand at an odd angle to the material and not take it seriously. Bill Murray still needs to be everything that we want about Bill Murray, and he has to be a dad. And how do you do that? Well, I don't know, but that's an interesting question to try and answer. A lot less interesting than, well, Bill Murray's just still... I guess what the screenwriters would say was, come on, you believed that you liked Han Solo when he was a rogue, and now you're gonna, like, we're just telling you that actually rogues don't change, and if you look at real life, that's actually, like Han and Leia actually wouldn't work. Who in your life that that's a Han and Leia have actually worked? That's what they would say to that, I guess.
Some truth to that.
Yeah, but also I don't go to movies for...
the sad stories, the bad stories?
Well, I mean, I don't want to be told that Han and Leia wouldn't work. I understand that real life romance is fraught with all kinds of perils, but the whole point of a fairy tale, which is what Star Wars is that in this story,
it does.
This is the one in a million thing.
Yep. That's the reason we're telling this story.
Right.
It's because it's different from the other stories.
Right.
Why are we telling the story of Frodo? Because he was the one.
We don't tell the story about the Hobbit that gets crushed by a goblin. And
we don't tell the story about the Hobbit that... The Hobbit?
The Hobbit.
The Hobbit that is a slave under Wormtongue.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably some dork that left the Shire and got eaten by that tree, you know, wasn't saved by Tom Bombadil. Nobody writes a story about him.
Why? Because he died.
He was an idiot that got eaten by a tree. Oh, man. Speaking of idiots that get eaten by things, we have that. Oh, man, I don't like that scene. It's my least favorite scene, probably. Han Solo's shipping. I'm getting back to Star Wars
right. The Rathtars.
The Rathtars, yeah.
Yeah, that whole thing.
That's just bad CGI.
Kanja Club.
And I just don't like it. It's not a good action scene. The geography is not real clear. It's just people running down corridors, and who knows where the monster is going to come from or what the strategy is. It's really lame. And that monster is so lame and like just bad CGI. Like none of the... You compare that to the monster underneath Jabba's palace and all the wonderful detail of its trainer being sad and all that. Like that's the kind of... George Lucas would not have... He would have
given that monster some more dignity.
So much more personality.
But the really fun thing is that when Mary Sue's John Boyega's saving, you know, because she like knows which fuse to pull to close the door or which button to push to close the door with just this control panel of lighty buttons or whatever. She runs and he starts to excitedly tell her what happened. And she says, that was lucky.
Yeah.
And it's cute.
It is fun to condescend to men because they're idiots.
Well, no, that one wasn't that bad. That was less condescension and more
just
humility, and also let's get on with it.
Yeah, okay, sure. I wasn't actually, I don't think I was paying attention during that scene. I don't actually remember that, but I'll take your word for it.
He's like, it had me, and then the door closed, and she's like, that was lucky.
There you go. That's nice. I'll give it to him. Okay, then we meet Snoke, iconic supervillain, Palpatine replacement, Snoke.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know what well, that's the problem, is that there's nothing to say about Snoke. Like, why not give him something fun? Palpatine's you just need one scene with Palpatine and you're like, oh, this guy just loves being evil and he's kind of lovable. But Snoke's he's just so subdued and bureaucratic for a Star Wars villain. He's just, I mean, I know we can talk about what Rian Johnson did with him, but he's never really impressed me. I don't know. You like Snoke? I
mean, I think he could have been interesting, but Rian Johnson sure didn't like him.
Nope, he did not.
I want to like him just because Rian Johnson hated him so much. Like, I want to find a reason to like... That's what I'm sitting here doing, is like, I want to find a reason to like Snoke because Rian Johnson...
The problem is anything that I might like about Snoke actually comes from the Rian Johnson. The way he's kind of disdainful and playing with, what's-his-face, Kylo Ren is kind of fun, and he's a little bit more...
He dresses in gold and...
And he's got a heck of a red, scary throne room. I'm afraid I'm going to have to agree with Rian Johnson as much as it pains me. I don't like Snoke that much.
Well, here's what I like about Snoke. If your decision is that we're going to have fake Darth Vader, be actual fake Darth Vader, and he's going to be fake Darth Vader, we need, even if your end game was always to bring Palpatine back, we need a credible threat or a potentially credible threat still looming large one way or another over this movie and the next movie. Somebody that's bigger, somebody that's Leia can not very credibly say, it was Snoke.
He fills that role, not very interestingly, but he fills it. I mean, it's really just what do they call it? A punt. I mean, it's just like we're not going to do the work of establishing this guy where he's an open question.
Well, it's not about him.
Yeah, which is fine, I guess. But
which is what happened in if you want to think about it this way, Darth Vader actually wasn't all that.
No, he's just kind of a thug in that first
He was a thug. Not everybody took him seriously. And the Emperor was this thing that was off screen, basically.
Right.
It's not that different from what A New Hope did.
No, but it does have a nice mystery boss. What happened to his fate? All these questions that Rian Johnson told us didn't matter, but they were interesting questions. Like, who is Snoke? What's his relationship to Palpatine and the Sith?
what's his real size?
What's his real size? Yeah, like it's a way of asking a lot of questions and giving nerds something to talk about until Last Jedi.
Yep.
And then Rian Johnson was like, "You were dumb to talk about that, nerds."
There's nothing to talk about.
No, yeah, it's just
you have
dumb.
nothing to talk about between now and the next film.
Gotcha.
Except for how they're going to fix everything I broke.
Yep. All right. Rey and Han and our heroes arrive at Maz Kanata's planet.
Yeah.
Han says, like, I feel fatherly feelings towards you, and would you consider
joining my crew,
even though he's known her for an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, which again is set up to be interpreted either as, wow, I've never met anybody who is bonded so closely with my baby, the Millennium Falcon, and is such a blank slate and could use real help and guidance, and maybe I can get right what I got wrong with the rest of my life here. Or, this is the girl, the one. This is my daughter. This is my niece. This is my,
Yeah, I mean,
this is the granddaughter of the man that I named my son after, and I will take her under my wing and look askance at her as she sort of gets drawn by the Force into my path and into this story finally, and what's happening and how's it all going to unfold. And this, of course, is going to lead to me seeing Leia again, and that Luke is not far behind, and of course things are in motion now that have been in motion since.
That's all possible. I don't know. I think a good shell game is one where the shell that doesn't have the prize under it looks as good as the shell that does. Like if you're going to fake out the audience, it's nice if the scene plays as legitimate emotional.
Well, that's why all those scenes were there of she gets the Falcon, she gets this, she gets that, she rips the thing out. I bypassed the such-a-majigger.
Right. Yeah, they just, what? All they really needed to do is be like, it's going to take a week to get to Maz Kanata's place. 1 week later. Now they've had some time together and I don't even have to see it, but just tell me that it happened so I can buy that there's some kind of budding relationship between these people.
Yeah.
But it basically skates by on the chemistry, and heck, New Hope had the same problem with
Obi-Wan
and Luke, so the most fundamental relationship in all of Star Wars. So
yeah, he goes back and sees the fried bodies of Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru.
I guess there's nothing for me now. Here now.
Time to go off to the galaxy. Ben,
right.
No!
And then a moment after that, I got him! Great kid, don't get cocky. So Star Wars has never been the most emotionally nuanced universe, but...
kids' movies.
Here's one thing I will say, though. George Lucas allows enough time to pass emotionally that you don't really notice it. Maybe it's because you see the movie when you're 4 years old. But I'd like to think that even an adult watching A New Hope for the first time wouldn't necessarily clock how short Luke and Obi-Wan's time was together, because the movie doesn't draw attention to it. J.J. Abrams is much more blatant. Maybe he's not much more blatant, but that'll be my half-hearted defense of the silliness of A New Hope. They go to
Maz Kanata's
place. The new Mos Eisley.
Yep.
What did you think about that?
Fine.
It's okay. Really struck me that George Lucas would have spent like 4 minutes just showing creatures doing creature things, and either J.J. Abrams isn't interested in that, or maybe modern movies just don't have time for that kind of...
This movie had a lot to get done.
It did. But...
And this movie wanted to do more Force lore than A New Hope, and knew that you wanted more Force lore than A New Hope. So it could have done that cantina setup. I mean, maybe this is the conversation to have. Well, we can do the cantina setup and make it, just, and everybody be like, oh, there's the cantina riff that Lucas would have done. Or we can have a really cool Force vision.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but I don't know. Mos Eisley is so iconic, and they're obviously doing their version of it. And it's this thing is so uninspiring.
I don't remember anything specifically except for the great big fat alien that has the
sexy chick
laying on top of him. Yeah,
that was yay. And then Maz Kanata is kind of a zero too. Like you think about Yoda and everything that goes into Yoda's introduction. Like he's going to pretend to be a little dork, and then he's going to reveal himself. And Maz Kanata, it feels like they really dropped the ball on this character in terms of actually making a character that's anything but an exposition. I mean, here's an idea. Fold it into
He's got a Chewbacca's her boyfriend.
Yeah, there's a little bit of color. She feels a little bit like that professor that we've had that's a little bit, colorful.
Her goggles.
But goggles and Chewbacca
Carl's up on the table.
do not a character make. I think
she's all right.
I don't like her. I think they should have given her, show don't tell. Give her a little scene to. She yells across the bar, "Han Solo, you old son of a gun!" And everybody. That's about the most we get to say. Yeah, she's kind of a lusty barmaid kind of a lady or something like that.
Where's my boyfriend?
But have some creature threaten them and then have her blasted. I don't know what you do. Just give us some 30-second thing that just tells us this is who Maz Kanata is and this is why we should care. I mean, maybe she's just not supposed to be that important, but it kind of feels like she's this movie's Yoda or something like that. And if you're going to be this movie's Yoda, then you got to be better than that. Maybe I'm just holding her to too high a standard here.
And she's not this movie's Yoda.
She's just this movie's exposition dumper.
Yoda is not in... She's much more this movie's Lando than she is this movie's Yoda.
Yeah, but Lando's like, "Han, you son of a gun, I'm a charming bisexual guy." Yes,
well, that's
sir.
that's because all of Act 2 is Lando.
Right.
Of Empire, and this brief stop of Act 2 is Maz Kanata.
I still think, Jake, if you gave us 5 minutes, we could come up with a better introduction for Maz Kanata that both made the bar a more iconic place and made her a more iconic, cool character and established the relationship between her and Han Solo and stuff. But whatever. It's fine. She gives exposition. Finn decides to run off.
He's going to go on a ship with some people.
Did you buy that whole element of the story? Because I had completely forgotten about it and it felt kind of left field this time.
Finn's going to run off?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you think of it this way, Finn's trying to escape from the First Order. He knows what the First Order is capable of. He's afraid. He's trying to do a good thing. Every time he tries to do a good thing, it goes bad. He's been nearly killed by Rathtars or whatever. And he doesn't know anything about the Force. He doesn't know anything about whatever.
But we haven't really seen him. Yeah, he was a bit of a coward when he didn't want to massacre a village at the beginning. But since then, he's been a pretty buoyant, fun-loving kind of guy that's going to run forward when he sees Rey getting accosted. The fact that he's even troubled by all this kind of came out of left field for me. Maybe I was just not paying attention.
No, I mean, he didn't want to go back to Jakku. He was freaked out when Poe was like, "We're going back to Jakku." Then he had an instinct kick in, and he had a little bit of buzz.
And then he says, "Yeah, I'm with the Resistance Total, Mr. Resistance, Senior Resistance. That's my name. I'm the Resistance guy, Resistance."
Yeah. And then he explains it later. He's like, "I didn't know what to say. I'm a stormtrooper. I was ashamed of who I was, what I've done." And there you were, being all pretty and stuff. And then they came for us, and you were a pilot, and you could get me off the thing. But I am not. He's seen Starkiller Base.
That's true. Yeah, I suppose it makes sense. I just, in all of the Joseph Campbell inspired stuff, I looked it up. This is called Reject the Call. That's what Joseph Campbell had it as. That's the point in the hero's journey where the hero rejects the call. And I just always think that's the most boring part of any movie. And I guess they have to do it. I don't mind that they do it, but I'm just always bored by it. It's kind of the same to me as a bad rom-com where something artificial makes the characters not like each other just so that the guy can run to the airport in the third act and before she gets on the plane. You have to work pretty hard to not make it feel sweaty that these people that obviously are destined for each other are going to be separated so we can get Act 2 and then into Act 3. I'm just always bored with the characters having a long conversation about how one of them's not going to be a hero just so he can turn around and
be a hero.
It's one of those things. There's certain cliches that I just find inherently boring.
Well, what you do then is you take that guy, and when he finally decides to be a hero, you say being a hero is stupid. And
yeah, exactly. Actually, you should not sacrifice yourself.
You shouldn't have done it. You probably should have gotten on that stupid ship and gotten as far away as you could.
Yeah, being a hero isn't what saves us. Random abstract concepts of love are what save us. I don't know. Maybe it's a necessary scene. It's also a boring scene. It's kind of like the nagging wife. I hate the nagging wife in sports movies, the coach's wife or the police officer's wife, who the police officer is just going to bring down, crack this one case, but he has the wife that is just mad at him. Two cliches that I'm just like, oh, can't we just have a joke to get past this? You know, can't we just have Robert Downey Jr. come in and make a quip and not do this scene that we've seen a million times? Not really criticizing it so much as observing my boredom with it. Then we find out about Starkiller Base. Pretty scary.
Lamest part of the movie.
Yeah.
I literally fell asleep.
In this most recent viewing?
Yeah.
But Jake, it's big. It blows up 3 planets instead of 1.
I'm going to be honest. I was falling asleep Maz Kanata's place. I forced my eyes to stay open for the Force vision.
Oh, do you want to say anything about the Force vision? We kind of skipped over that.
These are your first steps. Obi-Wan Kenobi voice.
As done by, what's his face?
Both.
Right?
As done by both
Ewan
McGregor and Sir, what's his face?
Alec Guinness.
Alec Guinness. Yeah, Rey is Alec Guinness. And these are your first steps is
Ewan McGregor,
yeah. She is drawn to Anakin's lightsaber. She has vision. Part of the vision is being in the tunnel where Luke faced Vader. Just in thinking about lightsaber lore, I was pretty convinced during that scene for the first time that actually she's Luke's daughter.
She's a Skywalker.
Not just she's Luke's. Luke ditched her before he took off. Or Luke's mom, or not Luke's mom, her mom always had her, whatever. I don't know. I didn't come out of the rest of the movie being convinced that was true just in that moment.
You were maybe at least convinced that that's what JJ was kind of playing with when he did it, when he made Force Awakens.
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say that JJ wasn't convinced of any of the directions that he needed to go in.
Nope.
But I am also convinced that he wanted to leave it open to the possibility that she is Luke's, that she's Obi-Wan's, and that she is Leia's.
Yep. And he did a good job of leaving it open to all 3 possibilities.
Yep. And knew that people would have a fun time puzzling over it.
Which is the fun of, as much as J.J. Abrams has famously lame answers to these questions, he doesn't know how to ask a good question.
Yeah.
He asks a good question.
And I mean, it was Anakin's lightsaber. Obi-Wan was the caretaker of it and handed it to Luke. Somehow it's at Maz Kanata's palace.
But that's a story for another day. Nice, graceful.
It calls to, it's calling to Rey. It's calling to her because she's a Skywalker, because she's supposed to be the caretaker who delivers it to the Skywalker at the right time. Or it's nothing, and who knows, and who cares, because whatever.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out.
Probably it needs to be destroyed.
December 20th, yeah, well, yeah.
And then put back together.
Yeah.
I mean, they just straight up put it back together.
Wait, who destroyed it?
Rey and Kylo Ren did in The Last Jedi.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen that stupid thing.
They're like force pulling it and it explodes.
That's right.
And she picks up the pieces and the kyber crystal from inside of it. And then now it's just back in the trailers. It's
not something that you should be able to just do with a lightsaber. Given all the lore and all the things we know, I feel like you should just be able to put it back together like that. You should like burn the kyber crystal out or something if you're going to.
You can take it apart and take the kyber crystal out, and you can make something else with it. And kyber crystals are attracted to people. You have to find the right crystal for you, the one that calls to you.
The crystal that calls to you.
All of that you can watch in episodes of Clone Wars.
Yep. And
ha! I got it in again.
Will we ever? Yeah, take that, listeners. So Starkiller Base blows up stuff. Kylo Ren kidnaps Rey. We'll hurry this along here.
Yeah.
Stop me if you have exciting things to say about this stuff. Poe survived. Yay!
Yay!
I was glad. See, there's an example. You've got a dumb plot thing that lots of dumb cliched movies would spend a lot of time on, and they're just like, nope. We're not going to bore you with how Poe survived. You know that he survived because it's the cliche that he survived. So let's just have him say like, well, I was thrown from the thing and I'm too excited to even go into the store. And that's it. You don't care as an audience member. Neither do we.
Yep.
He's just alive and we're happy about it. And then, Jake, we've got the moment we've all been waiting for.
Interrogation scene?
Well, no, not quite yet. We've got more important than that. The reunion of Han and Leia.
Oh, yeah.
The heart of every Star Wars fan was aflutter.
There they were, and they had this weird, awkward exposition dump about how Ben was seduced, had too much Vader in him and was seduced to the dark side, and Leia's like, you've got to go let him kill you.
Yeah. Well, I don't really know how to talk about this. Let me just try. First of all, the writing's bad. Second of all, it feels like the writing couldn't be better because it feels like Carrie Fisher couldn't have done better.
It doesn't feel like she could really sell much of anything, and some of it just is a function of her false teeth.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm not quite finding the words to express. I don't know how else to say this. She didn't age gracefully, and I don't want to be a jerk about that, but it does make a difference in how you feel about the character, so I feel like it's worth finding a way to talk about here. And B, her voice doesn't have a lot of modulation in it. It just kind of is in a growl now. It's
husky and toothy, and it's toothy. It sounds like she has false teeth.
And she's not able to really fluctuate it in an emotional sort of a way to like sell emotion. And it doesn't feel like she, as an actress and as a human being, really cares or wants to be there all that much. And yes, her mouth does look like something's wrong with her mouth. Dentures is a great theory. So I don't say any of those things.
I just know people who talk that way because of dentures.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to be ageist or sexist or appearancist or anything like this, but I want to acknowledge what I think the whole world has had to pretend not to acknowledge, which is that it's kind of hard to watch
Carrie Fisher
in this movie. And it's not because
if they had let Carrie Fisher be a washed out drunk.
Well, it's actually what Rian Johnson's kind of smart about. He gets a better performance out of Carrie Fisher, I think, and it's because he lets her play a little bit more of a feminist, just an obnoxious. He lets her play the real Carrie Fisher, the sarcastic, the woman that Carrie Fisher became or always was, and we just didn't know.
But trying to get Carrie Fisher to give you anything like the softness that the youthful Carrie Fisher could give you.
Yeah, that's really the thing, is that that kind of sums it all up. She's asked to play soft in
she
those
doesn't
scenes,
have it in her.
and she just doesn't have it. She's just not that person. Make whatever judgments you want about that, but what doesn't work.
It's not that different than asking what's her face to play what's his face's mom, Byers. Will Byers?
Who's Will Byers?
What's her name? You know.
In what?
Hang on a second.
Oh, Winona Ryder?
Yeah. I don't know why I got Will Byers, but I couldn't get Winona Ryder. Is Will Byers right?
It's Byers or something like that in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Well, the nice thing about her is that Winona Ryder is turned into kind of a screechy, annoying person, or maybe she always
got
was.
To be a screechy, annoying mom figure.
Yeah, and they cast Winona Ryder to play a decent version of Winona Ryder, and I don't like Winona Ryder that much, but it works for Stranger Things okay.
But she needed to be more sympathetic.
Yeah.
My opinion.
Yeah, well.
She needed to have a little bit more maternal something going on with her.
Yeah, an actual.
And she doesn't have anything really maternal. Right. She has to fake it.
Winona Ryder's not a mother in real life, and you can tell. You can tell. She doesn't have the spark of connection with her kids in the movie the way that a real mom does, even a bad one.
And Carrie Fisher's the same.
Yeah, I mean, if people don't know, Carrie Fisher lived a pretty hard life. She wrote several very sarcastic memoirs about her cocaine use, about her boozing, about her partying back in the day. You can see her coke nail in Jedi, I think, in the Jabba's palace. If you really look for it, you can see her coke nail. She lived a hard life, and she became kind of one of those people that sort of wore it as a badge and became this very sarcastic, mean-spirited woman that just mocked everything about Hollywood.
Very crass lady.
Very crass, very vulgar.
In the way that lots of women, when they get hard, and they go crass in an ugly way.
Yeah, they adopt a certain mannish vulgarity that ought to be beneath them.
Yeah, it's really unseemly. The vulgarity is unseemly in anyone, but it's especially unseemly in somebody who should be a lady.
Yeah, thank you for just saying it. I think I was dancing around it a little bit, but yeah, there's something that one expects, especially of a lady, that she comport herself with a certain amount of dignity and the last act of Carrie
Which isn't
Fisher's
to
life.
say that she can't be down to earth about all kinds of things.
No. But the last act of Carrie Fisher's life was a middle finger to any kind of maternal, grandmotherly, womanly anything.
Her daughter is in the film.
Yeah, she plays some random
Person in the background.
Person in the background. Yeah, Billy Lord.
Her mother.
Yeah, well, her mother was pretty famous for playing a sweetheart of a woman in old Singing in the Rain.
Debbie Reynolds.
Mm-hmm. And Carrie Fisher comes from Hollywood royalty. I mean,
That was my point.
Yeah, she is that kind. There's a reason that Carrie Fisher would be cynical, and we don't have to make this podcast into a deciding about Carrie Fisher podcast. But the point is, you have this really burnt out, sarcastic, cold, hard, vulgar woman who wants to be those things. I don't think she'd disapprove of me saying most of that about her. Maybe she'd want some slightly different words, but basically that's who she is. And then she's asked to play. They don't even actually give her a lot of like barking orders, general scenes kind of stuff. They just give her soft scenes with Han Solo, and it just feels like sometimes you have to edit around a performance that's not quite what you want. Mm-hmm. I want to say I recognize that Carrie Fisher didn't really bring it and wasn't really there, and they kind of had to make this, there's scenes where it'll kind of linger on Harrison Ford for a while you hear her voice say something, and it's like, oh, this should actually be her close up,
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of sad, and I don't know. They've talked about the fact that they really wanted Leia to be the next Jedi. I mean, that's how Return of the Jedi kind of ends. Like, it's your sister. She's the other one that's powerful and awesome. And
yeah, and
Rian Johnson came the closest that he could by having her float comatose through a star field.
Yep.
But the idea of that person actually being any kind of a white lightsaber wielder, or
that's what they say was going to be the plan.
Yeah, which makes no sense.
Nope.
I think they only say that because they can say it.
They can say it.
Because they didn't actually have to do it. Because they couldn't have.
That's what I think too.
They couldn't have actually done it.
They couldn't have pulled it off. They do have her holding Anakin's lightsaber in the new TV spot.
Well, there you go. It'll be interesting to see what they do, and if they... Nobody would be happier than me if they get something emotional and good out of her for the whatever leftover footage they had. But
yep.
Man, it's...
Must have had some scene where Rey was like, look, it's Luke's lightsaber.
Yeah. Well, here's hoping. But man, she doesn't really work that well in this movie. I guess that's the only point to be made about this movie. So yeah, Kylo Ren interrogates Rey.
Did you say Kylo Ren?
Yeah, Kylo Ren interrogates Ren.
Hashtag Kylo Ren.
Hashtag Kylo Ren. Adam Driver takes off his mask, and we get to see Adam Driver, and that's probably the moment that lost a lot of people in terms of liking Kylo Ren. Oh, it's just that guy.
Yep.
It's just a pretty boy who's not even pretty.
Yep.
But I really like it. I like that he's just a petulant idiot in a bad turtleneck that wishes, that's playing with action figures, basically.
Mm-hmm. Arrogant, cocky, wakes Rey up to the power that's within her.
Yep. And then she escapes.
Yep.
And
does an Obi-Wan trick.
That's fun.
It's her first, outside of shutting Kylo Ren out of her mind, her first Force trick is the first Force trick that we ever see on screen.
Yep. And she figures out how to do it without anyone telling her, which is kind of weird.
Well, she figures out that she can block out Kylo Ren's thoughts, and then she figures out that she can go into Kylo Ren's mind. Then maybe she makes a jump that she can control weaker minds.
That makes sense. I suppose that makes sense. Then she escapes. Kylo Ren destroys the little interrogation room, and we get a big laugh when the stormtroopers
turn
back
around
away.
And walk away. Yep.
That's a good joke. That's funny.
Joke.
That's a nice moment. And then we go to the control room, or whatever it's called, where our resistance heroes, within about 5 minutes, do the work that Jyn Erso and her friends gave her life for.
Well, if it's that big, there
probably has a thermal oscillator.
There is. It's right here. Let's zoom in on this diagram that we somehow have of it.
Right. No, we just need to blow up the thermal oscillator. Man, the Empire, or the Resistance, whoever what are these guys? The First Order, they've had 3 tries now, and they couldn't build something with like some nice padding around the thermal oscillator so that...
Well, they couldn't do it from the outside. Han and Chewie had to set charges all on the inside. to bust it open.
That's true.
You gotta have a man on the ground.
Well, and then the whole movie of Return of the Jedi is about a shield generator and taking down a shield generator. But it turns out you can just hyperspace through it. And it's dangerous, but if you're cool, then
you win.
You win. But man, it really did. That was probably the most striking thing about watching this movie again was what a middle finger it was to the plots of all other Star Wars movies, how easy all this stuff was. It would be like if they made a sequel to like Lord of the Rings, and this time they did just hop on the Eagles to take the ring. Actually, we just need to get this to the volcano.
Let's get a whole bunch of hobbits and put them on a bunch of eagles, and then
we'll accomplish in the space of about 20 minutes what it took whole movies to, and lots of sacrifice and everything. And then I don't know how much there is to talk about. There's a bunch of action and shooting and space stuff and
cool little battle, X-Wing battle.
Yeah.
That was back earlier.
I, ever since a kid, don't care about those dog fights. Independence Day for me was the pinnacle, and it might not even be any good, but it came at the right time in my life, and I loved it. It was the pinnacle of dog fighting against aliens movie.
Love dog fight.
Well, you are a Top Gun.
I'm a Top Gun fan. I'm waiting for the next Top Gun Maverick. When's that next trailer coming out?
So you'd watch like a whole
Independence Day. I'm a sucker for a good dog fight.
I can enjoy a good dog fight.
I like the dog fight. I like the dog fight over the skies of Maz Kanata's place, and I like when I like that stuff.
I went through a phase where like I would look at things and pretend like I was shooting them with my pilot joysticks and make trees blow up as my mom was
never
driving.
Got over it.
I was done with that, and I
never got.
I check
over
out
it.
during dogfight scenes, mostly in movies. I don't know.
We would sit in the floorboards of the car on car trips and imagine that we were in cockpits. And
so you still sort of feel the romance of Poe Dameron being like the best pilot in the galaxy and all that stuff.
Absolutely. If I were in a go-kart, I'd be just as likely to imagine myself flying a fighter jet.
Well, there you go. I'm glad. I mean, I know that they work. It's kind of like those Cars movies. Kids love them. I don't understand it, but kids love them. Dogfight movies, certain kind of person really likes. Not for me, but this movie's got it, and you like it, and that's go with blessings on there. We've got Han. I guess we have really just two more things to talk about: Han and Kylo, and then Rey versus Kylo at the end. So Han meets Kylo on that
just
bridge.
Like we predicted. Move on.
Yeah, there's nothing to say. It's not that interesting. Did you cry?
No.
I mean, the whole world cried, Jake.
False.
Han Solo just got killed.
Han Solo died at the end of Empire.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's be honest.
Bumbling stick stepper on her guy.
Took his place in return.
Got a lightsaber in the gut.
Yeah.
It's nice when he reaches up and puts his hand on his face.
It's a nice touch.
And I mean, I don't know, it's not that creative or anything. They could have milked that scene a lot more.
Yeah,
but
it's fine. I will just go back on record saying I understand why it had to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd have rather have just had, if we were going to get rid of Han, and the one risk that, and I'm willing to admit that this is stupid, but for whatever reason, my heart's just been set on this being the one risk that I wish JJ would have taken. And it's that I wish that Han and Chewie would have dive bombed the Millennium Falcon into that thermal oscillator and kept Poe Dameron from doing it or something like that. And made space for Rey and Finn to escape and let them go out together and take the Falcon off the table and have to come up with a new ship.
Well, it's kind of like in the first movie, you wouldn't want Darth Vader to shoot Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan needs to go out in a lightsaber fight. Right. And Han Solo, he either needs to go out in a spaghetti western shootout, or he needs to go out in the Millennium Falcon dive bombing.
That's what I wanted. I wanted that to be the risk, the thing that happened. But I understand.
You got to get those two characters face to face if that's the story you're telling.
You've got to get them face to face, and you've got to let. If you're setting up a Kylo Ren redemption story, and let's not pretend that we've not been, then he's going to need things working on his conscience, and he's going to need to take it. If he's on his own hero's journey, even if it's a hero's journey to the dark side, he's still got to face and kill the father. That's a Joseph Campbell thing.
And he's got to look at the father in the eyes, and
all of that's got to happen. If he's going to make a turn and go from being petulant to truly evil bad guy. Like, he's going to have that kind of step in the process. Now, it undoes him, which is convenient because it allows for some final third act drama.
Oh, in this movie, yeah.
Yeah, I don't in any way question that Abrams was like, well, how are we going to have a lightsaber battle with this guy and these untrained people? The way that we'll make sense of it is first of all, he gets shot.
Yeah, he bends over backwards. He has Chewie shoot him in the chest. He has him kill Han Solo.
And he's got the emotional trauma of having just killed his father while Starkiller Base is being destroyed around him.
Mm-hmm.
And so it stacks the deck against him so that Finn can handle him. And then we play the Finn scene where it looks more like Kylo Ren is just toying with him.
Kylo Ren.
You did it to me. I blame you.
That's all your fault?
Kylo Ren is... but then, Boyega gets his shots in on him. And then Rey does the thing. And that's the other thing.
What's that?
Is it just that Rey was stronger in pulling the lightsaber, force pulling the lightsaber to herself, or did the lightsaber want to go to her hands?
I guess we'll find out. What do you think about the last lightsaber fight taken as a set piece?
It was fine. It was also set up with Ren telling Snoke that she's just now figuring things out, and and then telling somebody else to like double or triple the guard or whatever every minute that goes by, or every hour or every day or whatever it is. Right. She gets stronger.
It's fine. I actually liked it better this time. I remember the first time that I saw it just being disappointed because it was obvious that they were going back to the old style. And as I've said many times, I really liked the superpowered fights from the prequels. But it makes sense. These two characters are untrained and finding their own way. And
Ren's not untrained. I don't care what they say. The kid grew up
but he's at least the wild card. I mean, they have that nice touch, I think, of him having the shoulder wound that he keeps hitting to give himself power. He's mad and he's unpredictable, and he's got a lightsaber that's not well built for whatever reason. So there's that, and then Rey's just...
It's a corrupted regular lightsaber.
Yeah, because he...
bled it.
That's too bad. Gotta be careful with those things.
Well, they either go red because you're red, or you bleed them to make them go red.
Wow. So he's really trying hard, this guy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
At least that's my understanding.
Well, there you go. I take you're the expert.
That stuff is not anywhere in any of that's stuff that I've read.
Wikipedia.
Yeah, Wikipedia or whatever.
It's a fine fight scene, I guess. J.J. Abrams knows enough to keep it in the dark in a nice snowy woods, so those lightsabers really pop. And probably not worth saying at this point, but the essential the stupid egalitarianism of modern movie fights really pops out at me in certain moments. And the one here is where they're wrestling. They both have their arms on, they're basically both holding hands, struggling for the lightsabers. And he's a big dude, and she's just this little shrimp of a girl, 19-year-old girl.
But the Force,
yes, I know.
That's when actually he reminds her of the Force, and that's when the tide is turned.
Yep.
I can show you the ways of the Force. The Force? Oh, yeah. I can tap it. I haven't been using Force powers at all. I've been just being awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I sure am great. Also, something people can notice that I only noticed because it was pointed out in a podcast called, what's the name of that music podcast I like?
Art of the Score.
Art of the Score. They use a bit of source music from the old Star Wars in that scene when, you want to guess? Like they just play a cue. They did not re-record it. They just use a cue from old Star Wars somewhere in that final confrontation. It's pretty obvious.
Not when she pulls the saber to herself?
It is. The Force theme plays. And if you know to listen for it, you can really hear the orchestration is a lot different. And it's because they're using like the original Obi-Wan. And I think, if I remember the story, it's that John Williams actually used Rey's theme, or he used something else. And they just said, come on, John, let's just press the button here. Let's not try and be clever. And so they didn't even have him re-record it. They just grabbed the old Force theme and stuck it in there. It's a much less lush arrangement than what you actually hear in modern Star Wars. The recording technology just wasn't the same. So it's kind of fun. She goes and sees Luke, and R2-D2 comes back alive.
Yeah.
Too bad he didn't do that a long time ago.
Tag Deus Ex Machina.
Probably could have spared some lives and saved everybody a lot of trouble if R2-D2 hadn't decided to go into a depressed funk when his master disappeared, but...
Well, he was searching his memory banks or something like that.
Oh, is that what he was doing? Okay.
I think that's the way that it's implied. I could be wrong.
Fair enough.
I wasn't paying too close attention, but my memory is these like C-3POs, like R2-D2 wakes up and C-3PO, of course, just happens to be there and is like, what do you mean you found it? You know, implying that he's in low power mode, searching all his archives or something like that.
Yep. And you can read a comic book if you want to know how C-3PO got his red arm. My understanding is that's told in one of the comic books, so be sure and seek that out.
One of the long-standing Star Wars jokes is C-3PO always has some mismatched part.
Right.
And so that's nothing new.
Nope. Rey goes and stands next to Luke. The music swells.
Camera spins around
It is the softest, fattest pitch to the next filmmaker. All they got to do is connect with that ball.
Yep.
Impossible to screw up. Impossible.
And yet.
The light rises.
and the darkness to meet it.
Oh, brother. Well, what did you think about Force Awakens? We've talked all the way through it.
It was everything that it needed to be and not a penny more.
No, it certainly doesn't take a lot of risks. Mine is with Kylo Ren. I maintain that Kylo Ren's a good creation and an interesting character, and he's fun in this movie. Just the scene where he is worshiping Darth Vader's helmet is pretty good. I always wonder, is Anakin's
more
skull in there?
Box.
You think Anakin's skull is Anakin's decapitated skull is just rotting inside that thing?
Nope. I don't.
I hope not.
Dude,
It's probably burned. Maybe the suit can withstand more heat than the body can. I don't know.
Maybe it was just the suit that was burned and his body was disappeared.
Yeah, that could be. Well, I guess we'll find out. I hope we'll find out. You pointed out to me, Jake, that a new line of Darth Vader toys have been released alongside some of the other...
I was just at Walmart the other day, and there was a display, and the display had a bunch of toys from the new movie, including that new droid. I forget whatever its name is.
I have no idea.
It's the little wheelie droid with the cone head.
Mm-hmm.
So on the front side of the display, it's like all this stuff from the new movie. It had Rey lightsabers, and it had Darth Vader lightsabers.
Mm.
On the back side of it, it had some like prequel stuff, and it had like a Luke lightsaber.
Okay, so maybe it was just a mix and match.
And so maybe it was just mix and match, and maybe it was just all a thing. But I walked up to it, and I just saw on one side all stuff from the new movie, and also Darth Vader stuff.
Right.
Maybe Darth Vader stuff just still sells.
Entirely possible. But let me just say this. If Darth Vader is in the new movie, there are people at the toy companies who know this, and they are gearing up
Heck yeah.
to sell a lot of Darth Vader merch.
Hence why I took the picture and sent it to you.
Right. So it doesn't necessarily mean something.
There were more Darth Vader lightsabers than there were Rey.
Mm-hmm.
There were more Darth Vader things.
Probably just because people love Rey so much that they bought all the Rey lightsabers.
Yeah, probably.
It's circumstantial evidence, but it's pretty interesting circumstantial evidence. Like, in a world where Darth Vader is about to hit the scene in a big way, the toy companies are gearing up right now.
And even the stuff on the backside, the prequel stuff, was like little Anakin and Obi-Wan figurines.
Wow.
That's actually all it was Anakin and Obi-Wan
there you go.
prequel figurines.
Maybe we know that
and Yoda.
All three of them.
But Anakin and Obi-Wan were packaged together.
Well, we'll see. I make it a point not to look at toys because toys can actually
tell too much.
Yeah, it'll be like time traveling Captain America or something like
right.
that. And like, oh, well, I guess they're doing time travel.
Well, go to Walmart and you'll see if you go to Walmart it's right there by the chips and Coke and beer and alcohol section in the aisle, and there it is.
The only section that Jake needs.
That's all I need.
At Walmart.
That's right.
No, that's not true, folks. What is true is that The Force Awakens is a movie that we have managed to talk well over 2 hours about. which I always knew that these would be the longest ones because
There's stuff to say about
they're
them.
interesting to talk about, whether you like the movies or not.
Just wait till we get to Last Jedi, baby.
Oh man, I think we should just aim for 3 hours. I think we should pick that movie. My theory is if we're going to do Star Wars at all, something that's been so thoroughly picked over, then
we might as well do it all the way.
We have to really go for it. Yeah, we can't. There's no halfway measures with Star Wars. And so I hope people enjoy. Hey, you don't have to listen to it all in one sitting, folks. You can listen to a little bit on your drive and listen to a little bit more and kind of think about it. And that's the joy of podcasts. I like long podcasts, and I like them for that reason. So I make no apologies for this. I think this is a fun movie to talk about. And there's things to say, and we've said them. And how many lightsabers out of 7 would you give to The Force Awakens, Jake?
5.
5 lightsabers?
Yeah.
I think that's fair. It's almost too high. I think I'd give it 4 lightsaber. I mean, well, I don't know. It's pretty good, I guess. There's nothing offensive about it. It doesn't really do anything
I almost
good.
gave it 4.5. I want to give it more than halfway mark. I think if you're looking at the number of... We can fault Abrams all we want for not taking risks. But the fact is, taking the project was an insane risk. Like, to take there is no franchise until Marvel created the MCU. There is nothing in the history of film that touches Star Wars in terms of iconography, fan passion, expectations, everything. Like, it is the only equivalent that you could come up with is donning the red cape or the black cowl on screen, or the clown get up.
Yep.
And when Heath Ledger took the role of the Joker, it was an insane risk.
Yep. Daniel Craig walking into James Bond after
Daniel Craig walking
Pierce
into
Brosnan
James
had a
Bond.
successful, financially lucrative run.
Insane risk. There are all kinds of... Taking the project was an insane risk. Managing to create a movie that very few people could genuinely hate. And really, when you got down to brass tacks, there are basically only 2 things you could hate about it. And one is that the protagonist is a woman. And the other is that it didn't take enough risks for you. But probably you would have hated whatever risks it took.
Hashtag Last Jedi. I mean, we fall by this sword.
That's exactly right. And so...
I do hate that the protagonist is a woman, by the way, in case people didn't know that. But yeah.
I think you wrote a letter to her.
Yeah! We didn't talk about that, but I don't know. People can go to Sound of Sanity's podcast feed and listen to a little episode called something or other, called something with Star Wars in the title. And we will talk about my open letter to Rey, which I got in a lot of trouble for. Talking about female protagonists in action movies and why they are silly and unbiblical. And people were not happy about that.
Those are the only 2 things that he gave you to really, truly hate.
I think what you could say is Disney has not used the template that he made. He gave them a safety net. He gave them a sturdy foundation. They have not proceeded to build boring things on that foundation. They've built some asinine things like Last Jedi, but Last Jedi, for all its faults, is not boring, and it is a creative risk. So Kathleen Kennedy, love her or hate her, she did say, all right, JJ, build a foundation and then we'll do the interesting stuff. And she's been true to that, I think. The Mandalorian is fun. It's interesting. Last Jedi...
The Mandalorian is the future of Star Wars.
It is. But, The Mandalorian's good, and insofar as what it's doing is what it's doing, it's got a vision and it's got an idea behind it.
It's got a vision, it's got an idea, it's got its risks, and it happens to be in an insanely low risk medium.
Right.
Like Disney's new streaming service.
It's going to succeed.
If the Mandalorian flops on Disney's new streaming service,
they're doing something wrong.
So what? Right? Like Disney Plus is still going to succeed. It doesn't hang or fall on the Mandalorian. Star Wars doesn't hang or fall. Star Wars can pretend like, yeah, well, you know what else was released with the release of Disney Plus? The new Lady and the Tramp movie.
Right. Jeff Goldblum versus the world or whatever.
Or whatever that's called. Yeah. It's low stakes, but it succeeds. You've got a whole new world of possibilities and a really nice driver of traffic to Disney Plus.
A whole new world, a whole new different point of view.
The suits were just, I have to believe the suits were just like, we need a new Baby Yoda meme in every episode so that every week the sucker is trending with a new GIF or a new shot.
But see, I'm all for that. I'm all for let's be
smart, right?
Let's be smart in the places where our business is cynical so that we can buy ourselves the freedom to be creative where it's interesting. So you want to make a show where your protagonist just has his helmet on for 4 episodes in a row and we never see his face, which is quite a creative risk, actually.
Fine.
But you're going to have a cute little
little baby alien.
And he's going to be drinking out of a cup this week. What will they think of next? That's smart.
Honestly, this is going to be the weirdest thing. You've heard a lot of weird things on this episode of this show, but probably in 2019, few things will have done more to see a population increase in 2020 than The Mandalorian.
Yeah. Baby Yoda babies.
Baby Yoda has made women want babies and made men want babies. I guarantee it.
Well, that's Force Awakens. And thanks for listening, folks. The Sanity at the Movies was produced by me, executive produced by the two of us. Go to patreon.com/Sound of Sanity to support us. We will be doing some behind the paywall episodes of Sanity at the Movies there after the new year. And until next time,
these are your first steps.